Know your place. That's what every Omega learns from birth. That's what Claire had carved into her soul through years of servitude in the crystal halls of the Moonstone Pack. But when the most powerful Alpha King in 5 centuries became obsessed with her and the child, everyone swore couldn't be his. She would learn that some bonds are written in starlight, and no amount of denial could erase what fate had already decided. Claire's hands trembled as she scrubbed the marble floors of the throne room, her reflection warping in the polished stone. 23 years old, and this was all she'd ever be. Invisible, disposable, the Omega Maid who existed only to serve. The other servants whispered that she was plain, forgettable, with her mousy brown hair and eyes the color of storm clouds. Nothing like the radiant she-wolves who paraded through these halls, vying for the Alpha King's attention. But lately, something had changed. King Cassian had started watching her. Not with the casual dismissal she'd grown accustomed to, but with an intensity that made her skin prickle with awareness. His golden eyes would track her movements across rooms, his conversations trailing off mid-sentence when she entered. 3 times this week, she'd caught him standing outside the servants' quarters at dawn, his massive frame silhouetted against the rising sun, just waiting. And then there was Lily, her daughter. Her 3-year-old miracle with silver hair that gleamed like moonlight and eyes that shifted between amber and violet depending on her mood. Eyes that matched no one in Claire's bloodline. Eyes that the pack elders whispered about in scandalized tones. Because everyone knew, everyone believed that an Omega like Claire couldn't possibly have conceived a child with gifts like Lily's. They thought Lily belonged to someone powerful, someone royal. They were wrong. At least, that's what Claire had been telling herself for 3 years. Because the alternative, that one hazy, impossible night during the lunar eclipse ceremony had actually happened, was too dangerous to even consider. Chapter 1. The Invisible Omega. The morning bells chimed 5 times, their resonance echoing through the servant corridors like a death knell. Claire jerked awake on her thin mattress, careful not to disturb Lily, who slept curled against her side like a silver-haired kitten. 3 years of motherhood had taught her to move in absolute silence, one of many survival skills an Omega Maid needed in the Moonstone Pack. She dressed quickly in the standard gray servant's uniform, the coarse fabric scratching against her skin. Through the single narrow window, she could see the main palace gleaming in the pre-dawn light, all white stone and crystal spires that caught the first rays of sun like captured stars. Beautiful, untouchable, everything she would never be. "Mama?" Lily's sleepy voice made her pause. "Shh, little moon. It's early still. Go back to sleep." Claire pressed a kiss to her daughter's forehead, breathing in that sweet child scent that made every hardship worthwhile. "Will you be back for breakfast?" "I'll try, sweetheart." "Be good for Mrs. Petra, okay?" Lily nodded, her unusual eyes already drifting closed again. Claire allowed herself one more moment to simply look at her daughter, this impossible, precious gift, before slipping out into the corridor. The servants' wing was already buzzing with activity. Omega wolves rushed past carrying linens, breakfast trays, and buckets of steaming water. Claire fell into the familiar rhythm, collecting her cleaning supplies from the storage room and heading toward her assigned section, the East Wing, where the Alpha King's private quarters resided. Her stomach twisted. She'd been reassigned there 2 weeks ago, after the previous maid had been dismissed for reasons no one would discuss. Claire suspected it had something to do with the girl's tendency to gossip, but in the palace, you learned quickly not to ask questions. Well, if it isn't the little mouse." Claire's steps faltered. That voice belonged to Sabrina, the head housekeeper's daughter, an unofficial queen of the servant hierarchy. Beautiful where Claire was plain, confident where Claire was timid, Sabrina had made it her personal mission to remind Claire of her place. "Good morning, Sabrina." Claire kept her eyes down, submissive as an Omega should be. "Is it? I heard you've been assigned to the King's Wing." Sabrina circled her like a predator scenting weakness. "How very interesting. Tell me, little mouse, what makes you so special? Is it your sparkling personality? Your stunning looks?" She laughed, and the other servants nearby joined in nervously. "I just go where I'm told," Claire murmured. "Of course you do, like a good little Omega." Sabrina leaned closer, her voice dropping to a poisonous whisper. But here's some advice: don't get ideas above your station. I've seen girls like you before, thinking proximity to power means something. It doesn't. You're still just a maid. Still just a breeding mistake with a bastard child. The words hit like physical blows, but Claire had armor built from years of similar cruelty. She kept her expression neutral, her posture submissive, even as rage burned in her chest. I understand. Good. Sabrina straightened, her smile returning to something resembling pleasant. Run along then. His Majesty despises tardiness. Claire hurried away, her cleaning supplies clutched against her chest like a shield. She'd learned long ago that responding to bullies only made things worse. Better to endure, survive, and protect what mattered. Lily. The East Wing was quiet at this hour, the thick carpets muffling her footsteps. Crystal chandeliers hung overhead, their prisms casting rainbow patterns across cream-colored walls decorated with ancient pack histories. Claire had cleaned these halls 100 times in the past 2 weeks, but the opulence still stole her breath. She reached the king's study first, pressing her ear against the door to ensure it was empty before entering. The room smelled of leather and pine of him. Her wolf stirred beneath her skin, a sensation so rare it shocked her. Omegas like her barely had wolves at all, certainly nothing strong enough to react to a mere scent. But this wasn't just any scent. She shook her head, dismissing the traitorous thought, and began her work, dusting the bookshelves, polishing the massive oak desk, refreshing the flowers in the crystal vase by the window. Normal tasks, simple tasks. Tasks that didn't require thinking about impossible nights, or silver-haired children, or the way King Cassian's eyes seemed to see straight through her carefully constructed walls. You missed a spot. Claire spun around, her heart launching into her throat. King Cassian stood in the doorway, so silent in his approach she hadn't heard him enter. He was massive, even by Alpha standards, standing well over 6 feet, with shoulders that seemed to fill the entire doorframe. His dark hair was slightly disheveled, as if he'd been running his hands through it, and those golden eyes, ancient, knowing, impossibly intense, fixed on her with laser focus. Your Majesty! She immediately dropped into a curtsy, her cleaning rag falling forgotten to the floor. I apologize. I didn't realize you were... The window ledge, upper left corner. He stepped into the room, and Claire fought every instinct to retreat. Alphas of his caliber radiated power like heat from a flame. You always miss that corner. Always. He'd been watching her work closely enough to notice her patterns. I'll fix it immediately, Your Majesty. She turned toward the window, grateful for any excuse to break that unnerving eye contact. But he moved with predatory grace, crossing the room in 3 long strides to stand directly behind her, so close she could feel the heat radiating from his body, could smell pine and something darker, more primal. Tell me something, Claire. His voice was low, intimate in a way that made her skin prickle. How old is your daughter? Her blood turned to ice. 3. Your Majesty, 3. He repeated the word thoughtfully. And her father? Dead, Your Majesty. The lie came easily after 3 years of practice. He was a traitor who passed through the territory. He died before Lily was born. A traitor. There was something in his tone: skepticism, amusement. How convenient. Claire's hands tightened on her cleaning rag. Is there something specific you require, Your Majesty? Yes. He reached past her, his arm brushing her shoulder as he pointed to the window ledge. That spot. Clean it. She did, stretching on her toes to reach the high corner, hyper-aware of his presence behind her. Every instinct screamed that she was prey in the presence of an apex predator, but beneath that fear ran a current of something else, something that felt dangerously like recognition. You know what I find interesting, Claire? He spoke as she worked, his voice a dark rumble that seemed to vibrate through her bones. 3 years ago, during the lunar eclipse ceremony, something unprecedented happened. A power surge unlike anything the Pack Elders had ever recorded. And 9 months later, you appeared in the servants' wing with a silver-haired child exhibiting gifts that shouldn't exist in Omega bloodlines. Her hand slipped, the rag falling from nerveless fingers. Your Majesty, I don't lie. The command carried alpha authority that compelled truth. Not to me. Not about this. Claire turned slowly, trapped between the window and his imposing form. This close, she could see the gold flecks in his eyes, could see the tension in his jaw, the way his hands clenched and unclenched at his sides as if fighting some internal battle. "I don't know what you want me to say," she whispered. "The truth." His hand came up, hovering near her face but not quite touching. "Were you at the lunar eclipse ceremony 3 years ago?" She couldn't lie, not under the weight of that alpha command. "Yes." "Did something happen to you that night? Something you can't quite remember?" Her breath caught. How did he know about the gaps in her memory, the hazy fragments of sensation and starlight that sometimes surfaced in dreams? I don't remember much. The ceremony was overwhelming, and I was helping serve the nobles. I got dizzy, needed air. The rest is blurry. He exhaled slowly, and for a moment, she thought she saw pain flicker across his features. "Do you have any memory of the sacred grove? Of moonlight and power and 2 souls recognizing each other despite every law that said it was impossible?" Claire's heart hammered against her ribs. "Your Majesty, I'm just a maid. Whatever you think happened." "I think," he interrupted, his voice dropping to something almost gentle, "that 3 years ago, during a celestial event that weakened the barriers between fate and choice, 2 people who should never have met found each other anyway. I think an Alpha King and an Omega Maid experienced something that shouldn't exist, and I think the silver-haired child you're protecting is the living proof." The words hung in the air between them, heavy with implications that could destroy everything Claire had built. "You're wrong," she managed, even as her wolf howled in recognition. "Lily isn't, she can't be." "Can't she?" His hand finally made contact, fingers gentle as they tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. The touch sent electricity racing down her spine. "Then explain why I've been drawn to you since the moment you started working in this wing. Explain why my wolf recognizes yours despite you being Omega. Explain why every time I see that child, I feel a connection that defies every law of our kind." "Coincidence," Claire breathed, but even she didn't believe it. "I don't believe in coincidence." He stepped back abruptly, as if the contact had burned him. "But I do believe in proof, which is why I've arranged for the pack physician to conduct a paternity test. Tomorrow morning. You, me, and Lily." Terror flooded her system. "You can't. I won't let you." "It's not a request, Claire. It's a command." The gentleness was gone, replaced by pure alpha authority. 3 years is long enough to live in denial. Tomorrow, we learn the truth. All of it. He strode toward the door, leaving Claire trembling in his wake. "Your Majesty," she called out, surprising herself. He paused. "What if you're right? What happens to us then?" He looked back at her over his shoulder, those golden eyes blazing with emotions she couldn't name. "Then everything changes. For all of us." The door closed behind him with a soft click that sounded like the end of the world. If stories like Claire's remind you that some bonds transcend every rule meant to keep us apart, subscribe to join others who believe that true connection can't be denied no matter how impossible it seems. Chapter 2. Shadows of the Past. Claire didn't sleep that night. She lay in the darkness of her tiny room, Lily's warm body pressed against her side, and stared at the ceiling as her world crumbled around her. A paternity test. Tomorrow. There would be no hiding after that. No pretending. No protection for the fragile life she'd built from nothing. If Cassian was right, if Lily truly was his daughter, what would happen to them? Would he take Lily away? Omegas had no rights to their children, especially not when an Alpha King laid claim. Would he cast Claire out for hiding the truth? Imprison her for deception? Or worse, would he try to make her his mistress, a shameful secret kept in the shadows while he married some suitable alpha female for political alliance? Her wolf whimpered at that last thought, a sound of pure anguish that shocked her. When had her wolf become strong enough to have opinions? To feel such visceral rejection at the thought of Cassian with another? "Mama, you're sad." Lily's sleepy voice broke through her spiraling thoughts. Claire looked down to find her daughter's unusual eyes watching her with that eerie wisdom children sometimes possessed. "I'm fine, little moon. Just tired. You smell sad, like rain." Lily reached up, her small hand patting Claire's cheek. "Don't be sad. The moon always comes back, even when clouds hide it." Where did a 3-year-old learn to say such things? You're too smart for your own good, Claire whispered, pulling her daughter close. Promise me something, Lily. No matter what happens, remember that Mama loves you, more than anything in this world. I know, Mama. Lily yawned, already drifting back to sleep. And the golden wolf loves us too. He told me in my dreams. Claire's breath caught. What golden wolf, sweetheart? But Lily was already asleep, her breathing deep and even, leaving Claire alone with questions that had no safe answers. The pre-dawn bells found Claire exhausted but resolved. If today was the day her secrets came to light, she would face it with whatever dignity she could muster. She dressed carefully, braiding her hair in the simple style servants wore, and woke Lily gently. Are we going somewhere special today? Lily asked, as Claire dressed her in the nicest dress. They owned a simple blue cotton that Claire had sewn herself from fabric scraps. We're going to meet a doctor, Little Moon. He's going to check to make sure you're healthy and strong. I am strong. Watch. Lily flexed her tiny arms, making Claire laugh despite everything. The strongest. Now come on, we can't be late. The walk to the pack physician's quarters felt like a funeral march. Other servants stared as they passed, and Claire realized with sinking dread that rumors must have already spread. In a place like this, secrets lasted about as long as morning dew. Look, it's the little bastard and her whore mother, someone muttered as they passed. Claire's hands tightened on Lily's, but she kept walking, spine straight despite the shame burning in her chest. The physician's wing was in the medical building, a separate structure of white stone that smelled of antiseptic and healing herbs. Claire had only been here once before, when Lily had fallen ill with fever as an infant. The pack physician had treated them with professional courtesy, but undisguised disdain. Omegas were barely worth the medicine they consumed. Today, however, Dr. Henrik himself waited in the entrance, and his demeanor was entirely different. Ah, Claire. And this must be young Lily. His smile was warm, professional, nothing like the contempt she'd expected. Please, come in. His Majesty is already waiting. Of course he was. They were led to a private examination room, larger and more luxurious than anywhere Claire had ever been in the medical building. Cassian stood by the window, his massive frame backlit by morning sun, and when he turned to look at them, Claire's traitorous heart skipped a beat. He was dressed more casually today, in dark trousers, and a simple white shirt that somehow made him look even more imposing. But it was his expression that made her pause. There was vulnerability there, beneath the alpha authority, something that looked almost like fear. Claire, Lily. His voice was softer than it had been yesterday, carefully modulated as if afraid of scaring them. Thank you for coming. Did we have a choice? The words escaped before Claire could stop them. His jaw tightened. No, you didn't. But I appreciate your cooperation nonetheless. Lily, who had been hiding behind Claire's legs, suddenly peeked out to stare at Cassian with open curiosity. You're very big. A ghost of a smile touched his lips. So I've been told. Are you the golden wolf from my dreams? The room went silent. Dr. Henrik looked between them with sharp interest. Cassian's expression transformed into something Claire couldn't name. Shock, wonder, and a desperate kind of hope all tangled together. What dreams, little one? He asked, crouching down to her level despite his size making the gesture awkward. Lily tilted her head, studying him with those shifting eyes. The ones where you run with us under the full moon. Where Mama isn't sad anymore. Where we're safe. Claire's world tilted sideways. She'd never told Lily anything about Cassian, never even hinted at the possibility. How could her daughter dream such specific things? I would very much like that dream to be real, Cassian said quietly. And the raw honesty in his voice made Claire's chest ache. Would you let the doctor take a small sample of your blood? It won't hurt much, I promise. And afterward, we'll know for certain if those dreams are prophecy or just wishes. Will it help Mama stop being sad? Yes, he said without hesitation. It will help everything make sense. Lily looked back at Claire, silently asking permission. Claire wanted to refuse, to grab her daughter and run as far as their legs could carry them. But she was Omega, he was Alpha King, and running would only delay the inevitable. It's okay, little moon. Be brave for Mama. The test itself was quick. Dr. Henrik was efficient and gentle, taking blood samples from all three of them with minimal discomfort. Lily barely flinched, too fascinated by Cassian to notice the needle. "The results will take approximately 2 hours, Doctor," Henrik announced, labeling the vials with careful precision. "Your Majesty, I'll bring them to your study the moment they're ready." "No." Cassian's eyes never left Lily, who had wandered over to examine the anatomical charts on the wall. "Bring them here. We'll wait together." 2 hours. Claire would either be proven a liar and lose everything, or be proven truthful and lose everything anyway. There was no winning scenario in this game. "Lily, why don't you sit here with me?" Dr. Henrik gestured to a chair near his desk. "I have some picture books about healing herbs. Would you like to see them?" Lily nodded enthusiastically, leaving Claire alone with Cassian in the other half of the room. The silence stretched between them, heavy with 3 years of secrets and denial. "She's remarkable," Cassian finally said, his voice low enough that only Claire could hear. "Intelligent, curious, completely unafraid despite every instinct that should tell her I'm dangerous. She doesn't understand hierarchy yet, doesn't know that alphas are supposed to be feared." "Good." The word came out fierce. "I never want her to fear me. If she's mine—" He stopped, correcting himself. "When it's confirmed she's mine, I want her to know me as a father, not a king." "And what about me?" Claire's voice cracked despite her best efforts. "What do you want from me, Your Majesty?" He turned to face her fully, and the intensity in his golden eyes stole her breath. "The truth. Starting with what really happened during the lunar eclipse ceremony." Claire's hands twisted in her lap. She'd spent 3 years trying not to remember, pushing down the fragments of memory that surfaced in dreams and quiet moments. But under the weight of his stare, the walls she'd built began to crumble. "I was serving wine to the nobles in the ceremonial hall," she began slowly. "It was my first year working in the palace, and I was terrified of making a mistake. The ceremony was beautiful, hundreds of candles, ancient songs, the full moon visible through the crystal ceiling. Then the eclipse began. She could see it again behind her closed eyelids, the moon turning blood red, power crackling through the air like lightning. The elders said the veil between worlds was thinning. Some of the guests started shifting involuntarily, overcome by the celestial energy. I was trying to leave, to get out of the way, but someone bumped into me. I dropped the wine pitcher, and it shattered. I was so afraid I'd be punished that I ran." "Where did you go?" "The sacred grove. I knew it would be empty, everyone was inside for the ceremony. I just needed a moment to breathe, to calm down. But when I got there—" She paused, the memories fragmented and hazy. "The moon was completely eclipsed. Everything was red light and shadows. And you were there. You remember me?" "Pieces. Your eyes, they were glowing gold even in the darkness. You were in pain, I think. Something about the eclipse was affecting you, making your wolf uncontrollable. You didn't seem to recognize me. Didn't even seem to see me at first. But then I did." His voice was rough, remembering. "The moment our eyes met, something shifted. The pain stopped. My wolf, which had been tearing me apart from the inside, suddenly went quiet, calm, like finding water in a desert." Claire nodded, the memory growing clearer. "You said my name, even though we'd never spoken before. You touched my face and said, 'There you are,' as if you'd been searching for me forever. And then we did something impossible." He stepped closer, his hand hovering near hers but not quite touching. "Omegas and Alpha Kings don't bond, Claire. The power differential is too extreme. It would kill the Omega or drive the Alpha mad. Every law, every instinct, every piece of pack wisdom says it can't happen. But it did. But it did," he confirmed. "And when I woke up the next morning in the grove, alone, I convinced myself it had been a dream. A hallucination brought on by the eclipse's power, because the alternative was impossible. So you forgot about me." "I tried to." His voice dropped to a whisper. "But my wolf never did. He searched for you in every room, every corridor. He recognized your scent, even when I didn't consciously remember. And then 3 years later, you appeared in my wing, and every suppressed memory came flooding back. Why didn't you say something immediately?" "Because I needed to be certain I wasn't mad, that I hadn't imagined the whole thing." His hand finally made contact, fingers interlacing with hers. But more than that, I needed to understand why you ran, why you hid, why you denied me the chance to know my own child. The accusation stung because it was fair. I was terrified, Claire admitted. I woke up alone in the grove with marks on my neck that I knew were bond marks, but that couldn't possibly be bond marks because who bonds with an Omega Maid? I had fragmented memories of something beautiful and impossible. And when I asked the other servants about the eclipse ceremony, they said you'd been absent for most of it, that you disappeared and returned hours later looking shattered. I was trying to process what happened. I know that now. But then, I thought maybe I'd done something wrong. Maybe I'd seduced you somehow during the eclipse madness and you were disgusted. So I hid. And when I realized I was pregnant, she laughed bitterly. I knew no one would believe me. The Omega Maid claiming the Alpha King's child? I'd be called a liar, a schemer, probably executed for slander. So you invented the traitor story. It was easier than the truth. And Lily was mine, the one good thing in my miserable existence. I wasn't going to let anyone take her away. Cassian's grip on her hand tightened. I would never take her from you. You're Alpha King. You could do anything you wanted. Yes, he agreed. Which is why I'm choosing to do this right. No more secrets. No more running. When those results come back, Your Majesty, Dr. Henrik's urgent tone interrupted them. The results are ready, but there's something you need to see. Chapter 3. Blood and Truth. Dr. Henrik's face was pale as he approached, holding a single sheet of paper like it might explode. Behind him, Lily remained absorbed in her picture book, blissfully unaware that the next few minutes would determine her entire future. Well? Cassian's voice carried the weight of command, but Claire could hear the tremor beneath it. Fear. Hope. Desperation, all tangled together. Dr. Henrik glanced at Claire, then back to Cassian. Your Majesty, perhaps we should discuss this privately. No. Cassian's hand tightened around Claire's. Whatever you have to say, she deserves to hear it. We both do. The physician took a deep breath, then handed over the results. The paternity test confirms what you suspected. Lily is biologically your daughter, Your Majesty. The genetic markers are unmistakable. She carries your bloodline, your pack heritage, and... He hesitated. And something else I've never seen before. Cassian stared at the paper, his expression cycling through shock, joy, and confusion. What do you mean, something else? Her blood contains markers from both of you, as expected. But there's a third element, an energy signature, that shouldn't exist. It's as if the eclipse itself left an imprint on her DNA. Dr. Henrik pulled out a second sheet covered in complex diagrams. During a normal conception, genetic material combines in predictable patterns. But Lily's conception occurred during a celestial event that weakened the barriers between the physical and spiritual realms. The result is a child who carries not just your bloodlines, but the power of the eclipse itself. Claire's head spun. What does that mean for her? It means, Dr. Henrik said carefully, that Lily is unprecedented. She has the strength of alpha blood, the adaptability of Omega heritage, and gifts that bridge both. The silver hair, the shifting eye color, the prophetic dreams, these aren't anomalies. They're manifestations of eclipse-blessed power. Is she in danger? Cassian's voice had gone deadly quiet, the tone of an alpha ready to tear apart any threat to his child. Not from the power itself, but from those who might fear it, covet it, or seek to control it. The physician met Cassian's eyes meaningfully. Your Majesty, if word of this spreads beyond this room, Lily will become a target. There are packs and entities beyond packs that would kill to possess or eliminate a child with her potential. The temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees as Cassian processed this information. Claire felt his hand trembling in hers, watched the muscles in his jaw work as he fought for control. Then we ensure word doesn't spread, he said finally. You will tell no one of these findings. The official record will state simple paternity confirmation, nothing more. Is that understood? Completely, Your Majesty. Good. Leave us. Dr. Henrik gathered his papers and departed swiftly, closing the door behind him. The silence that followed was deafening. Claire looked at the paternity results still clutched in Cassian's free hand. at the proof of what she'd known in her bones for 3 years, but had been too terrified to acknowledge. Lily was his daughter. Their daughter. Created in impossible circumstances, blessed or cursed with power that made her both miracle and target. "Say something," Claire whispered when the silence became unbearable. Cassian released her hand abruptly, crossing to the window to stare out at the palace grounds. His shoulders were rigid, his entire body radiating barely controlled emotion. 3 years, he finally said, his voice rough. 3 years I didn't know she existed. 3 years of watching her grow from a distance, feeling drawn to her without understanding why. 3 years you kept this from me. I was protecting her. From me? He whirled around, and the anguish in his golden eyes made Claire's breath catch. I'm her father, Claire. I had a right to know, to be part of her life, to protect her from the beginning. You're also the Alpha King, Claire shot back, her own emotions finally breaking free. You have duties, responsibilities, a future that includes marrying some politically advantageous she-wolf, and producing legitimate heirs. Where exactly do the Omega Maid and her bastard child fit into that picture? Don't call her that. The command cracked like a whip. Don't ever call my daughter a bastard. That's what everyone else calls her. What they'll always call her, no matter what some blood test says. Then I'll make them stop. He closed the distance between them in 2 strides, gripping her shoulders with careful intensity. I'll legitimize her, claim her publicly as my daughter and heir, give her my name, my protection, everything she should have had from birth. Claire's heart hammered against her ribs. You can't. The Pack Council would never accept an Omega-born child as heir. The other Alphas would revolt. Let them try. His eyes blazed with determination. I am Alpha King, and my word is law. If the Council objects, I'll remind them of that fact. Forcefully, if necessary. And what about me? The question emerged smaller than Claire intended. What happens to the Omega Maid who dared touch the king? Who kept his daughter secret for 3 years? Cassian's grip on her shoulders gentled, his thumbs tracing small circles through the fabric of her dress. What do you want to happen, Claire? The question stunned her. No one had ever asked what she wanted. Omegas didn't get wants, didn't get choices. They survived and obeyed and hoped not to be noticed. I want Lily to be safe, she managed. I want her to have opportunities I never had. I want her to grow up knowing she's loved and valued, not just for her power but for who she is. And for yourself? What do you want for yourself? She couldn't answer that, couldn't voice the impossible dreams that haunted her in the darkest hours. Dreams of being more than invisible, of mattering to someone, of the bond she'd felt that eclipse night, being real and lasting, and something she was allowed to keep. It doesn't matter what I want, she finally said. I'm Omega. My wants aren't relevant. Something dangerous flashed in Cassian's eyes. They're relevant to me. Before Claire could respond, Lily's voice interrupted them. Why is everyone talking so serious? Did I do something wrong? They both turned to find her standing there, her picture book abandoned, those unusual eyes wide with concern. Claire immediately knelt down, pulling her daughter into a hug. No, little moon. You didn't do anything wrong. You're perfect. Then why does the golden wolf look so sad? Lily wriggled free, walking over to Cassian with that complete absence of fear that both terrified and amazed Claire. Don't be sad. Mama says being sad makes your heart heavy. Cassian looked down at his daughter. His daughter, the reality of it finally sinking in. And something in his expression cracked open. He knelt slowly, bringing himself to Lily's eye level. You're right, he said softly. I have been sad. But do you know what would make me happy? Lily shook her head. If you would let me be part of your life. Not as a king, but as... He swallowed hard. As your papa, if you'd like. I know you don't know me yet, and I haven't been there like I should have been. But I'd like to change that, if you'll give me a chance. Claire's heart clenched at the vulnerability in his voice. At this powerful Alpha King reduced to hoping a 3-year-old would accept him. Lily studied him with that eerie wisdom, then reached out to pat his cheek, just as she had Claire's the night before. You're the one from my dreams. The golden wolf who keeps us safe from the shadows. What shadows, little one? The ones that want to take me away, but you always fight them off. She smiled, completely trusting. So yes, you can be my papa. But you have to promise to keep Mama safe too. She gets scared at night. Cassian's eyes found Claire's over Lily's head, and the intensity there made her knees weak. I promise. I'll keep both of you safe, no matter what it costs me. Even from the beautiful monster? Lily asked innocently. The temperature in the room plummeted. Cassian's entire body went rigid. What beautiful monster, Lily? The one in my other dreams? The lady with the pretty smile and the dark eyes. She says she wants to meet me. Says we're going to be very special friends. Lily's expression remained cheerful, unaware of the horror spreading across both adults' faces. She smells like roses and blood. Claire grabbed Lily's shoulders. When did you start having these dreams, baby? Last night, after Mama said we were going to see the doctor. The pretty lady said not to be scared, that everything was going according to plan. Lily tilted her head. What plan, Papa? But Cassian was already moving, striding to the door and flinging it open. Henrik, get back in here, now. The physician appeared within seconds, his face drawn. Your Majesty? Lily's been having dreams about a woman, dark eyes, smells like roses and blood. Could the eclipse blessing have opened her mind to external influence? Dr. Henrik went pale. It's possible. If her gifts include prophetic sensitivity, she might be vulnerable to psychic contact, especially from powerful supernatural entities. What kind of entities? Claire demanded, pulling Lily protectively against her chest. The physician and king exchanged a loaded look before Cassian answered. The kind that would be very interested in an eclipse-blessed child. The kind that have been dormant for decades but might awaken if they sensed new power in the world. You're talking about the Nightborn, Dr. Henrik said quietly. What are Nightborn? Claire had never heard the term. Vampiric witches, Cassian said grimly. Ancient, powerful, and supposedly extinct. They were hunted to near extinction 50 years ago, after they tried to steal pack children for their blood rituals. The last known Nightborn was killed before I was born. Apparently not the last, Dr. Henrik muttered. Cassian pulled out his phone, typing rapidly. I'm calling an emergency council meeting. If the Nightborn have returned and they're targeting Lily, we need to prepare the pack's defenses immediately. Your Majesty, Claire interrupted, her voice shaking. What do these Nightborn want with children? He looked at her, and she saw the answer in his eyes before he spoke. They consume the life force of powerful young wolves to extend their immortality and amplify their magic. An eclipse-blessed child would be. He stopped, unable to finish the sentence. Irresistible. Dr. Henrik completed grimly. The equivalent of ambrosia. One feeding could give a Nightborn centuries of extended life and power. Claire felt the world tilt sideways. This couldn't be happening. She'd spent 3 years hiding Lily from political machinations and pack hierarchies, only to discover her daughter was being hunted by monsters from nightmare stories. We need to run, she heard herself say. We need to take Lily and disappear before. No. Cassian's command stopped her cold. Running won't work. If a Nightborn has already made psychic contact, they can track her anywhere. The only way to keep Lily safe is to face this threat directly. She's 3 years old, which is why she needs her father's protection, her pack's protection, her birthright. He crossed back to them, taking Claire's hands in his. I know you're scared. I'm terrified. But I will not let anything happen to either of you. Do you understand me? I will burn this world to ashes before I let someone harm my family. My family. The words hung in the air between them, carrying weight and promise and implications that made Claire's head spin. What do we do? She whispered. First, we move you both into the royal wing, where security is tightest. No more servants' quarters. No more hiding. You're under my personal protection as of now. The Pack Council will never approve. I don't need their approval. I'm invoking Alpha's right of protection. Anyone who challenges it challenges me directly. His jaw set in a line of absolute determination. Second, we begin training Lily to shield her mind. If she can learn to block psychic intrusion, the Nightborn loses her connection. She's 3, Claire repeated helplessly. Eclipse blessed children develop faster than normal pups. We'll work with what she can handle. He turned to Dr. Henrik. I want a full security detail assigned to them immediately. No one gets close without my explicit permission. And find me everything we have in the archives about Nightborn, their weaknesses, their patterns, how to kill them permanently. Yes, Your Majesty. As the physician hurried away, Cassian knelt again before Lily, who had been watching the exchange with wide eyes. Little one, I need you to do something for me. If the pretty lady appears in your dreams again, I need you to tell her no. Can you do that? But she's nice, Lily protested. She's pretending to be nice. Really, she wants to hurt you. So if she comes back, you say no and you call for me. Can you do that? Lily looked uncertain for the first time. Will you hear me if I call? Cassian placed his hand over his heart. I'll always hear you. We're connected now, you, me, and Mama. Family hears each other, no matter the distance. Okay, Papa. I'll say no to the pretty monster. She yawned suddenly, the stress of the morning catching up with her small body. I'm sleepy now. Claire lifted her daughter automatically, feeling Lily's weight settle against her shoulder. I'll take her back to our quarters. No, Cassian interrupted gently. You're coming with me, both of you, to your new home. He led them out of the medical building and across the palace grounds. Servants and pack members stopped to stare as they passed the Alpha King, walking beside an Omega Maid carrying a silver-haired child, his hand resting protectively on the small of Claire's back. Claire could feel the shock, the judgment, the whispers starting already, but for the first time in 3 years, she didn't care. Because in this moment, walking beside the father of her child toward an uncertain future, she realized something fundamental had shifted. She was no longer alone in this fight, no longer the invisible Omega, struggling to protect her daughter from shadows. They were a family now impossible, unprecedented, and about to face darkness together. The royal wing loomed before them, grand and terrifying in equal measure. Cassian pushed open doors that led to rooms Claire had only ever cleaned, never imagined living in. These will be your quarters, he said, showing them into a suite that was larger than the entire servants' dormitory. Connected to mine through that door, so I can reach you quickly if needed. There's a bedroom for Lily, a sitting room, and a private bath. Tomorrow we'll discuss more permanent arrangements, but for tonight, you're safe here. Claire stood in the center of the opulent space, clutching her sleeping daughter, and felt tears threatening. This is too much. We don't belong. You belong wherever I say you belong. His voice softened. And right now, you belong here. With me. Where I can keep you safe. Why? The question burst out before she could stop it. Why do you care so much? The bond isn't complete. You said yourself it should have killed me or driven you mad. Or just an inconvenience. A complication you don't need. Cassian crossed the distance between them, cupping her face with hands that trembled slightly. You're not an inconvenience. You're my mate, the mother of my child. And whether that bond is complete or not, you're mine to protect, mine to cherish, mine to... He stopped himself. But Claire saw the truth burning in his golden eyes, saw the depth of feeling he'd been holding back, the connection forged 3 years ago in moonlight and magic that had never truly broken despite time and denial, and impossible circumstances. Get some rest, he said finally, stepping back before he did something they weren't ready for. I have security to arrange and a council to terrify into submission, but I'll be right next door if you need me. For anything. He left through the connecting door, and Claire was alone in luxury she'd never dared imagine, holding a daughter who was destined for either greatness or destruction, with a mate who defied every rule she'd been taught. And somewhere in the darkness, a beautiful monster was dreaming of silver-haired children and blood. Chapter 4. The Council of Wolves. Claire didn't sleep that night either, though this time it was luxury rather than fear that kept her awake. She lay in a bed softer than clouds, Lily curled safely beside her, and stared at silk canopy overhead that probably cost more than Claire would earn in 10 lifetimes. Every sound made her jump, the whisper of wind against crystal windows, the distant footsteps of guards patrolling the corridors, the creak of the connecting door, as Cassian checked on them for the third time since midnight, his golden eyes glowing in the darkness before he retreated without a word. He was restless too. She could hear him pacing in his chambers, could feel the agitation radiating through the walls like heat. Their bond incomplete, impossible, but undeniably present, hummed with his anxiety and determination. When dawn finally broke, Claire rose and dressed in one of the simple gowns that had been brought to their quarters overnight. It was finer than anything she'd ever owned. Deep green silk that actually fit her properly, but it felt like a costume, like playing dress-up in someone else's life. "Mama, look!" Lily bounced on the enormous bed, her silver hair wild around her face. "I can jump so high." "Careful, little moon. We're guests here. We can't break anything." "Not guests." Cassian's voice came from the connecting doorway. He looked exhausted, dark circles under his eyes, but his expression softened when he saw Lily jumping. "Family. And family can jump on beds if they want to." Lily giggled and jumped higher, making Claire's heart clench with a mixture of joy and terror. This was what she'd always wanted for her daughter. Freedom. Happiness. The ability to be a child without fear. But at what cost? "The council meeting is in an hour," Cassian said, his tone shifting to business. "I need you there, Claire." Her stomach dropped. "Me? Why?" "I'm just the mother of my heir. My mate, even if not publicly acknowledged yet. And a witness to Lily's gifts." He crossed to her, taking her cold hands in his warm ones. "I know you're terrified, but the council needs to understand what we're facing, and you're the only one who can speak to Lily's experiences. They'll tear me apart, an Omega, in the Alpha Council chambers. Not if they value their throats." His voice carried lethal promise. "You're under my protection, Claire. Anyone who disrespects you, disrespects me. And I'm not feeling particularly patient this morning." A knock at the door interrupted them. "Your Majesty, the beta is here. Send him in." A man entered who Claire vaguely recognized from palace functions. Marcus, the beta second in command. Tall and broad, with dark hair shot through with gray. His eyes widened when he saw Claire and Lily, then carefully blanked to neutrality. "Your Majesty, I came as soon as I received your summons." His gaze flicked to Claire again, curiosity and calculation warring in his expression. "Is it true? About the child?" "Yes, Lily is my daughter, conceived during the lunar eclipse ceremony 3 years ago." Cassian's hand found the small of Claire's back, a possessive gesture that wasn't lost on Marcus. "Claire is her mother, and both are now under my direct protection. I trust I can count on your discretion and support?" Marcus was quiet for a long moment, studying them with the shrewd intelligence that had made him beta. Finally, he bowed his head. "Of course, Your Majesty. Your family is the Pax family. I'll ensure everyone understands that." Relief flooded through Claire. If the beta accepted them, others would follow. Maybe this wouldn't be complete disaster. Good. Because we have bigger problems than pack politics. Cassian quickly outlined the situation with the Nightborn, watching Marcus's expression darken with each detail. "Nightborn," the beta breathed. "I thought they were extinct. My grandfather used to tell stories about the purge, how it took 3 alpha packs working together to eliminate them. Apparently we missed one, and she's targeting my daughter. Then we mobilize immediately. Every warrior, every defense, every resource we have." "Agreed. But first, the council needs to be informed and brought into line. Some of them will resist accepting Lily as my heir, especially once they learn she's Omega-born." Marcus's jaw tightened. "Let them try. I'll remind them what happened to the last wolves who questioned your authority." "I'm counting on it." The council chambers were everything Claire had feared. A circular room of dark wood and stone, with a round table large enough to seat 20. Ancient pack symbols carved into the walls seemed to watch with judging eyes as she entered behind Cassian, Lily holding her hand. 12 alphas were already seated, men and women representing the most powerful families in the Moonstone Pack. Their conversations died the moment Claire appeared, replaced by shocked silence and thinly veiled hostility. "Your Majesty," one of the older alphas, a woman with steel-gray hair and sharp features, spoke first. "Surely you don't intend for the Omega to remain during council proceedings?" "Counselor Helena, allow me to introduce Claire and Lily. Cassian's voice was dangerously soft. My mate and my daughter. And yes, they will be staying for this meeting. The room exploded into chaos. Mate? Impossible. And Omega cannot. This is an outrage. Silence. The Alpha command crashed over them like a tidal wave, forcing every wolf to submission. Claire felt it too, the overwhelming pressure of Cassian's authority, but he kept his hand on her back, steadying her. You will sit, you will listen, and you will remember who leads this pack. They sat, but the hostility remained palpable. Claire wanted to disappear, to melt into the floor, but Lily squeezed her hand and whispered, Don't be scared, Mama. Papa won't let them hurt us. From the mouths of babes, Cassian remained standing, his presence dominating the room. 3 years ago, during the lunar eclipse ceremony, something unprecedented occurred. The celestial event weakened the barriers between realms and allowed a bonding that shouldn't have been possible. Claire and I became mates, though neither of us fully understood what had happened. 9 months later, Lily was born. Convenient, Helena sneered. An Omega claims to be bonded to the Alpha King and produces a child with unusual features. Forgive my skepticism, Your Majesty, but this smells of deception. Does it? Cassian's smile was cold. Dr. Henrik conducted paternity testing this morning. The results are conclusive. Lily is mine. Her blood carries my genetic markers, my pack heritage, and my alpha strength. Would you like to challenge the pack physician's findings? Helena's mouth snapped shut, but another counselor, a younger man with ambitious eyes, leaned forward. Even if the child is yours, Your Majesty, she's Omega-born. Our laws are clear, only Alpha-born children can inherit leadership. Laws can be changed, not without council approval. And I can tell you right now, this council will never approve an Omega as pack heir. Lily, who had been quietly observing, suddenly spoke up. Why not? The young counselor blinked, clearly not expecting to be addressed by a 3-year-old. Because Omegas are weak, child. They lack the strength and authority needed to lead. But Mama isn't weak. She's the strongest person I know. Lily's eyes began to shift colors, cycling between amber and violet. And I'm very strong too. Want to see? Before anyone could respond, the air in the room grew heavy. Power rolled off Lily in waves, not the overwhelming force of an alpha, but something else. Something ancient and otherworldly that made every wolf in the room freeze. The candles lining the walls flared brighter, their flames dancing in patterns that formed symbols Claire didn't recognize. The carved pack emblems on the walls began to glow with soft silver light, and Lily's hair, already pale, seemed to capture and reflect moonlight that shouldn't exist in the windowless chamber. Eclipse blessed, Helena whispered, her hostility transforming to awe and fear. She carries the moon's power. She carries more than that. Cassian's voice cut through the shocked silence. Which is why this council will approve her as my heir, grant Claire full protection as my acknowledged mate, and mobilize every resource we have to defend them both. Because there are things hunting my daughter, and I will not allow pack politics to leave her vulnerable. What things? The ambitious counselor demanded. Nightborn. The word fell like a stone into still water, sending ripples of fear through the assembled alphas. Several went pale. One actually stood, as if to flee, before Marcus's growl forced him back into his seat. That's impossible, Helena said, but her voice shook. The Nightborn were eliminated. Apparently not. One has been making psychic contact with Lily, using her eclipse-blessed gifts as a conduit. Dr. Henrik believes the child's power signature is drawing supernatural attention, and the Nightborn are merely the first threat we'll face. Then we should hide the child, someone suggested. Send her away where her power won't attract notice. No. Cassian's refusal was absolute. She stays with me, where I can protect her, where her pack can protect her. Unless you're suggesting our warriors are too weak to face this threat, the challenge hung in the air. No alpha would admit weakness, especially not in front of their peers. Of course not, Your Majesty. Marcus interjected smoothly. What the council needs to understand is that Lily isn't just your daughter. She's a weapon, one that could either strengthen our pack beyond measure or destroy us if she falls into enemy hands. The question isn't whether to protect her, but how best to do so while preparing her to control her gifts. Well said, Cassian nodded to his beta. Which is why I'm proposing a new position within the pack structure, Eclipse Guardian, a role dedicated to training and protecting Eclipse-blessed wolves. Starting with Lily. I want volunteers from this council to help establish the protocols and security measures. It was brilliant politics, Claire realized. By giving the counselors a role in protecting Lily, Cassian transformed them from opponents to allies. They couldn't refuse without looking like cowards, and accepting meant acknowledging Lily's importance to the pack. I volunteer, Helena said immediately, her sharp mind clearly reaching the same conclusion. My family has records of the old supernatural wars. If the Nightborn have returned, we'll need that knowledge. Others quickly followed, each offering resources and expertise. Within minutes, Cassian had transformed a hostile council into a protective force, all through strategic manipulation and undeniable authority. But one voice remained silent, the ambitious young counselor who'd questioned Lily's right to inherit. Claire watched him carefully, noting the calculation in his eyes, the way his fingers tapped against the table in irritation. Counselor Drake, Cassian addressed him directly. You've been quiet. Do you have concerns you'd like to voice? Drake's smile was smooth, political. Not concerns, Your Majesty, merely questions about succession logistics. If something were to happen to you before Lily reaches maturity, who would serve as regent? Traditionally, that role falls to the strongest alpha in the pack. Traditionally, yes, but these aren't traditional circumstances. Cassian's eyes narrowed. In the event of my death, Claire would serve as regent until Lily comes of age. The room erupted again, but this time, Claire felt anger rather than fear. How dare they? How dare they sit in judgment of her fitness to protect her own child? Enough! Her voice surprised everyone, including herself. You want to question my ability to lead? To protect? I've kept Lily alive and hidden for 3 years with no resources, no support, and no pack backing. I've faced down servants who called her bastard, endured nobles who treated me like dirt, and sacrificed everything to keep her safe. So yes, Counselor Drake, I think I'm qualified to serve as regent. Because unlike you, I don't see my daughter as a political tool or a weapon. I see her as a child who deserves to grow up without fear. Silence followed her outburst. Then, unexpectedly, Helena began to clap. Others joined in, not all but enough. Even Marcus smiled with genuine approval. Well spoken, the beta said. Perhaps Omega-born doesn't mean weak after all. Drake's expression soured, but he bowed his head in apparent acceptance. As you say, Your Majesty, I will support your decision. The words were right, but something in his tone made Claire's skin crawl. She glanced at Cassian and saw recognition in his eyes. He'd caught it too. Drake would be a problem, but one for later. Then we're agreed, Cassian concluded. Lily is recognized as my heir, Claire as my mate, and regent designate. The Eclipse Guardian program begins immediately, with full council support, and every resource we have goes toward identifying and eliminating the Nightborn threat. Are there any other concerns? No one spoke. Good. This meeting is adjourned. Helena, Marcus remain behind. The rest of you are dismissed. The counselors filed out, most avoiding eye contact with Claire, though a few nodded respectfully. Drake was the last to leave, and his smile as he passed was cold enough to freeze blood. When the door closed, Cassian finally allowed himself to relax slightly. Well, that went better than expected. Did it? Claire asked. Drake looked ready to commit murder. Drake is always ready to commit murder. It's why he's dangerous. Helena approached them, her sharp eyes studying Lily with new interest. May I? At Cassian's nod, she knelt before the little girl. You're remarkable, child. I've never seen power manifest so young, or so controlled. You didn't hurt anyone with that display, despite having every reason to be frightened or angry. Papa said to only use my gifts to protect, not to hurt, Lily explained seriously. Unless someone tries to take me from Mama, then I can hurt them lots. Helena laughed, a genuine sound of delight. I like this one. She has spirit. Standing, she addressed Cassian. I meant what I said about the old records. I'll have them brought from the family archive. But, Your Majesty, you should know the Nightborn were never defeated through force alone. They're too cunning, too patient. The final victory came through sacrifice. What kind of sacrifice? The kind that required bait. Helena's expression grew grim. Eclipse-blessed children were used to draw the Nightborn out of hiding, then killed along with their hunters in coordinated strikes. It was effective, but the cost. She glanced at Lily. The cost was unconscionable. That won't be happening here, Cassian said flatly. Of course not. I'm simply saying we need a different strategy, one that doesn't require sacrificing what we're trying to protect. Then we'd better think fast, Marcus interjected, because if the Nightborn is already making contact, she'll be coming soon. They're not known for patience once they've selected a target. As if summoned by his words, Lily suddenly swayed, her eyes going vacant. Claire caught her before she fell, but the child was rigid in her arms, staring at something no one else could see. Lily? Baby, what's wrong? She's here, Lily whispered, her voice strangely hollow. The pretty monster. She says thank you for gathering everyone in one place. She says it will make the harvest so much easier. The harvest. Cassian was moving before anyone else processed the words, grabbing Claire and Lily and shoving them toward Marcus. Get them to my quarters, lock every door, activate every defense, now. What about you? Claire demanded, even as Marcus began pulling them toward the exit. I'm going to kill whatever's stupid enough to threaten my family. The last thing Claire saw before Marcus dragged them through the doorway was Cassian's eyes beginning to glow with alpha fury, his body already shifting toward his wolf form, and somewhere in the palace, something laughed a sound like breaking glass and dying roses. Chapter 5. The Hunter and the Hunted. Marcus moved with practiced efficiency, herding Claire and Lily through corridors that seemed to stretch endlessly. Behind them, alarms began to wail, a haunting sound that made Claire's blood run cold. The palace was under attack, and her daughter was the target. Stay close, Marcus ordered, his hand on the weapon at his belt. Other guards appeared from side passages, forming a protective formation around them. Your Majesty gave strict orders you're to be locked in his private chambers with full defensive protocols active. What about Cassian? Claire's voice cracked on his name. The Alpha King can handle himself. Your job is to protect that child. They rounded a corner and stopped dead. The corridor ahead was filled with mist, thick, unnatural fog that writhed like a living thing. It smelled of decay and roses, sweet corruption that made Claire's stomach turn. Back, Marcus commanded. We'll take the West Passage. But the mist was already behind them, cutting off their escape. They were trapped between walls of impossible fog that pulsed with malevolent intent. From within the mist, a figure emerged. She was beautiful in the way poisonous flowers were. Beautiful dark hair cascading over pale shoulders, eyes like black holes that swallowed light, and a smile that promised both ecstasy and agony. She wore a gown of deep crimson that might have been silk or might have been congealed blood. And when she moved, reality seemed to bend around her. The Nightborn. There she is. The creature purred, her gaze fixed on Lily with hunger that made Claire want to vomit. The little Eclipse child. Even more delicious than I imagined. Marcus shifted immediately, his wolf form erupting in an explosion of power. The other guards followed suit, creating a wall of fur and fangs between the Nightborn and their charges. But the creature merely laughed. Oh, how precious. The puppies think they can stop me. She raised one elegant hand, and the guards simply stopped. Frozen, mid-growl, mid-lunge, their bodies locked in place by invisible force. Marcus struggled against the binding, his eyes wild with fury, but he couldn't move. Now then, the Nightborn stepped over the paralyzed wolves as if they were furniture. Let me see what all the fuss is about. Claire shoved Lily behind her, facing down the monster with nothing but desperation and maternal fury. You can't have her, can't I? The creature tilted her head, amused. And what's going to stop me? You, little Omega? With your weak wolf and trembling hands? If necessary, yes. The Nightborn laughed that breaking glass sound from before, and reached out with impossible speed to grab Claire by the throat. Her fingers were ice cold, her grip crushing as she lifted Claire off the ground. Brave, foolish, but brave. I almost respect it. Her black eyes studied Claire with clinical interest. "Tell me, how does it feel to mate with a king? Did he whisper pretty lies while he took you? Did he promise you'd be special?" Claire couldn't breathe, couldn't speak. Black spots danced in her vision. "Mama!" Lily's scream was pure anguish. And then the world exploded into silver light. Power erupted from Lily like a detonation, raw, uncontrolled, and absolutely devastating. The Nightborn shrieked and released Claire, stumbling backward as the light seared her pale skin. The mist evaporated. The paralyzed guards collapsed, suddenly freed. Lily stood at the center of it all, her eyes blazing pure white, her silver hair floating as if underwater, and her small body radiating power that made the very air vibrate. "Don't touch my mama." The Nightborn's beautiful face twisted into something monstrous, too many teeth, too many angles, reality warping around her true form. "You little—" She never finished the sentence. Cassian arrived like an avenging god, his massive wolf form crashing into the Nightborn with enough force to crack the stone floor. They tumbled together in a blur of fur and shadow, his teeth seeking her throat while her claws raked his sides. "Get them out of here," he roared, his voice distorted by the shift. Marcus, now. The beta, already recovering, grabbed Claire and Lily. This time, Claire didn't protest, too focused on breathing, on making sure Lily was okay, on getting her daughter away from the nightmare unfolding behind them. They burst through the doors to Cassian's private chambers and Marcus slammed them shut, throwing heavy bolts and activating wards that made the air shimmer with protective magic. Through the thick wood, they could hear the sounds of battle snarls, crashes, inhuman screaming. "Is Papa going to be okay?" Lily asked, her power already fading, leaving her small and frightened again. "Your father is the strongest alpha in 5 centuries, Marcus said, though his expression was grim. "If anyone can kill a Nightborn, it's him." But Claire heard the uncertainty in his voice. Saw it in the way his hands shook as he checked his weapons, preparing for the creature to breach the door. Minutes passed like hours. The sounds of fighting eventually faded, replaced by terrible silence. Claire held Lily close, her throat throbbing where the Nightborn had grabbed her, and waited for either salvation or doom. Finally, a knock at the door. "It's me," Cassian's voice, rough and exhausted. "Let me in." Marcus checked the peephole, then threw open the locks. Cassian stumbled through, back in human form but covered in blood and wounds that still steamed as they healed. He looked like he'd been through a war. "Did you kill her?" Marcus demanded. "No." Cassian's jaw clenched in frustration. "She escaped into shadow before I could finish it. But I hurt her badly, bought us time." He crossed to Claire and Lily, his hands gentle despite the violence still written on his body. "Are you hurt?" Claire opened her mouth to say no, then realized she was shaking uncontrollably. The adrenaline was wearing off, leaving her hollow and terrified. She was so strong, so fast. I thought. "Shh." He pulled her against his chest, careful of his injuries. "You were perfect. You protected her. You were brave. I wasn't brave. I was terrified. Bravery isn't the absence of fear. It's standing between your child and a monster despite being terrified." His lips pressed to the top of her head. "You're stronger than you know, Claire." Lily wriggled between them, her small hands patting both their faces. "Papa's bleeding. We need to fix him. I'm healing, little moon, don't worry. But you're hurt because you protected us." Lily's eyes filled with tears. "It's my fault. If I wasn't special, the pretty monster wouldn't want me." Cassian knelt immediately, cupping her small face with both hands. "Listen to me, Lily. You are not at fault for being born special. The Nightborn is evil because she chooses to hurt people, not because you exist. Do you understand? But, no buts, you saved your mother today with your power. You're not a curse, you're a blessing. Our blessing." He pulled her into a fierce hug. "And I will spend every day of my life making sure you're safe enough to grow up and use those gifts for good." Over Lily's head, his eyes met Claire's, and she saw the promise there. The determination, but also the fear he was trying to hide, that the Nightborn had been toying with them, testing their defenses, and would return with a real plan. "Your Majesty." Marcus cleared his throat. We need to discuss next steps. The creature penetrated palace security with disturbing ease. Our defenses need upgrading. Agreed. Call in the witches, I don't care what it costs. We need wards strong enough to block psychic intrusion and shadow travel. Cassian stood, still holding Lily. And double the guard on these chambers. No one enters without my explicit permission. Already done, but your majesty. Marcus hesitated. The council is in chaos. Half of them want to send the child away, the other half want to use her as bait, and Drake is using the attack to undermine your authority, saying you put the pack at risk by keeping her here. Drake can say whatever he wants. Lily stays. Even if it means civil war within the pack? Especially then. Cassian's voice dropped to something dangerous. Anyone who tries to take my daughter will learn exactly why I'm Alpha King, forcefully. A knock at the door made everyone tense. Your Majesty? It's Helena. I need to speak with you. Marcus checked, then admitted the older counselor. She looked shaken, her usual composure cracked. I've been through the records, she said without preamble. The Nightborn that just attacked, I think I know who she is. Tell me. Her name is Morgantha. She's over 300 years old, one of the original Nightborn Coven leaders. We thought she died in the final battle 50 years ago, but apparently she survived. How do we kill her? That's the problem. Helena's expression was grim. According to the records, Morgantha is unkillable by conventional means. She's fed on too many powerful wolves, absorbed too much life force. The only way our ancestors managed to defeat her was by trapping her in a cursed mirror, a prison of her own reflection, that prevented her from feeding or escaping. Then we do the same thing. The mirror was destroyed when we thought she was dead. It took 6 eclipse-blessed witches working together to create it originally, and they all died in the process. Helena looked at Lily. Unless. No, Claire said immediately. Whatever you're thinking, no. I'm thinking that Lily is eclipse-blessed, that her power might be enough to recreate the mirror trap, especially if augmented by other witches. She's 3 years old. I know. Which is why I'm not suggesting we use her for the ritual. I'm suggesting we find another way to channel her power, perhaps through a blood bond with someone willing to serve as a conduit. You mean me, Cassian said quietly. You're already bonded to her through blood and pack ties. If we could strengthen that connection, use you as a buffer to draw on her power without harming her. Helena spread her hands. It's theoretical, dangerous, but it might be our only option. What's the risk? Marcus demanded. To Cassian, death, madness, or permanent damage to his alpha abilities. To Lily, if the bond isn't strong enough to protect her, the power drain could kill her. Then we find another way, Claire insisted. There has to be another way. But she could see the calculation in Cassian's eyes, the willingness to sacrifice himself if it meant protecting Lily. It terrified her more than the Nightborn had. We'll discuss this later, he said finally. Right now, we need to focus on immediate security. Helena. Work with the witches on defensive wards. Marcus, I want every entrance to these chambers guarded by our most trusted warriors. And someone find out how Drake is using this attack politically. I want to know what he's planning. They scattered to their tasks, leaving the 3 of them alone again. Cassian finally set Lily down, and she immediately curled up on his bed, exhausted by the day's events. She'll be asleep in minutes, Claire said softly. The power drain always exhausts her. Does it happen often? These power manifestations? A few times when she was younger, usually when she was frightened or I was in danger. But never this strong. Claire moved to sit beside her daughter, stroking her silver hair. I thought I could keep her safe by hiding her. Instead, I just delayed the inevitable. You kept her alive, that's not nothing. Cassian sat on the other side of the bed, his larger frame making the mattress dip. And now she has an entire pack working to protect her. She's not alone anymore. Neither are you. Claire looked at him across Lily's sleeping form. This powerful alpha, who'd turned his world upside down for them, who bore wounds from fighting monsters, who looked at their daughter with such fierce love it made her chest ache. Why? She asked again. Why do all this? The bond isn't complete, you said so yourself. You could disavow us, say Lily was conceived through trickery or coercion. You could protect your reputation, your political position. Instead, you're starting wars, and making enemies, and risking everything. Why? Cassian was quiet for a long moment, his golden eyes studying her with an intensity that made her breath catch. "Do you remember what I said to you that night in the grove?" he finally asked. "During the eclipse? I remember fragments, moonlight and power, and feeling like I'd found something I'd been searching for my entire life without knowing it. I said, 'There you are.' Because that's what it felt like, finding something essential that had always been missing. I've been Alpha King since I was 20 years old, Claire. I've had power, respect, everything a wolf could want, but I've never felt complete until that moment when our eyes met, and something clicked into place." His hand reached across the bed, finding hers. "The bond might not be complete by traditional standards, but it's real. You're real. And every time I look at you or Lily, I feel that same sense of rightness. Of home. So yes, I'll start wars and make enemies and risk everything, because you're worth it, both of you." Tears spilled down Claire's cheeks before she could stop them. "I don't know how to be your mate. I don't know how to be anything other than invisible. Then we'll figure it out together. You don't have to be perfect, you just have to be you." His thumb brushed over her knuckles. "And Claire? You were never invisible to me. Not from the moment I first saw you." She wanted to believe him, wanted to trust in this impossible connection and the future he was offering. But somewhere in the shadows, a Nightborn was healing and planning, and Claire knew their respite would be brief. "She'll come back," Claire whispered. "Morgantha. She'll come back, and next time she'll be prepared for your strength and Lily's power. I know. And if Helena's right about the mirror being the only way to stop her, I'll do whatever's necessary. Even if it kills you?" His smile was sad. "Especially then, because the alternative is losing both of you, and that's not something I can survive." Lily stirred in her sleep, mumbling something about golden wolves and moonlight. Between them, she looked so small, so vulnerable, this child who carried the weight of ancient power and impossible destiny. "I'm scared," Claire admitted. "Good. Fear will keep you sharp." Cassian stood, moving around the bed to pull her up and into his arms. "But don't let it paralyze you. We have allies, resources, and power of our own, and most importantly, we have something Morgantha doesn't understand." "What's that?" "Love." His arms tightened around her. "She's driven by hunger and greed. We're driven by the need to protect our child. That makes us more dangerous than she could possibly imagine." A commotion outside the door made them both tense. Marcus's voice came through, frustrated. "Counselor Drake, you can't." The door burst open. Drake stood there with a contingent of guards bearing different pack insignias, not Moonstone wolves, but outsiders. "Alpha King Cassian." Drake's voice was formal, cold. "I'm here under the authority of the Continental Wolf Council to place you under investigation for endangering pack security and violating mating laws. These guards will ensure you comply with the inquiry." Cassian's growl rattled the windows. "You dare bring outsiders into my territory. You dare challenge me in my own chambers. I dare uphold our laws." Drake's smile was poisonous with triumph. "Laws that prohibit alpha-omega matings due to the danger they pose. Laws you violated, creating a child whose very existence has brought monsters to our doorstep. The Continental Council has received reports of your situation. They demand answers. The Continental Council has no authority over my pack. They do when your actions threaten all wolfkind. Face the inquiry with honor, Your Majesty, or will be forced to assume you have something to hide." Drake's eyes slid to Claire and Lily. "The Omega and the child will be taken into protective custody while the investigation proceeds. For their own safety, of course." Over his dead body, Claire saw in Cassian's expression. And possibly, she realized with sinking dread, that's exactly what Drake was counting on. Chapter 6. Wolves and Vipers. The air in the room turned electric, with barely restrained violence. Cassian's eyes blazed pure gold, his alpha aura pressing down on everyone with crushing force. The foreign guards actually whimpered, their legs trembling under the weight of his power. But Drake remained standing, which meant he had backing, real backing from wolves powerful enough to shield him from an Alpha King's wrath. "You forget yourself, Drake." Cassian's voice was deadly quiet. The Continental Council has no jurisdiction over recognized heirs or bonded mates. Lily is my daughter, confirmed by blood. Claire is my mate, protected by pack law. Protected by pack law, yes, but the mating itself violates continental protocols established for everyone's safety. Drake pulled out a scroll, reading with false regret. Protocol 7, Section 3. Alpha-Omega matings are prohibited due to the power imbalance, creating dangerous offspring and unstable pack dynamics. Violators are subject to investigation, and the Omega in question must be evaluated for coercion or manipulation. Claire's blood ran cold. They were going to claim Cassian had coerced her, that she couldn't have consented because of the power differential. It was clever turning protection laws into weapons. Claire came to me willingly during the eclipse, Cassian said through gritted teeth. There was no coercion. Can she remember that willingness? Can she testify under oath that she was in full possession of her faculties during a celestial event known to drive wolves temporarily mad? Drake's smile widened. Because if not, then by definition, consent wasn't possible. Which makes this mating illegal and the child problematic. You want to take my daughter? Cassian's hands clenched into fists. Admit it. This isn't about laws or protocols. This is about power. This is about protecting the wolf world from threats we don't understand. That child brought a nightborn to our doorstep. How long before other creatures come hunting? How long before her uncontrolled power kills someone? Drake gestured to his guards. The Continental Council requests voluntary cooperation. Refuse, and they'll be forced to take more aggressive measures. Marcus appeared behind Drake, flanked by loyal Moonstone warriors. Those aggressive measures will have to go through us first. Starting a war with the Continental Council, Beta Marcus? That's treason. No, that's protecting our Alpha's family. Something you seem to have forgotten is a Beta's primary duty. The standoff stretched taut as a bowstring. Claire could feel disaster approaching, could see the paths branching before them, violence that would tear the wolf world apart, or submission that would mean losing Lily forever. She stepped forward before she could lose her nerve. I'll go. Claire, no. Cassian reached for her, but she evaded his grasp. I'll submit to their evaluation. I'll testify under oath about what happened during the eclipse. She faced Drake directly, channeling every ounce of dignity she possessed. But Lily stays here with her father. That's non-negotiable. Drake's expression flickered with frustration. The child must also be evaluated. The child is 3 years old, and has been through enough trauma today. She stays with Cassian while I prove that our mating was consensual and legal. Claire's voice didn't waver despite her terror. Unless the Continental Council makes a habit of terrorizing traumatized children, it was a gamble. Drake wanted to separate them, to make them vulnerable, but refusing to evaluate Claire's consent would reveal his true motives, and even corrupt councils had to maintain appearances. Fine, Drake conceded after a long moment. The Omega will come for evaluation, but understand this: if we determine the mating was non-consensual, it will be dissolved. The child will be removed from Alpha King Cassian's custody pending further investigation, and charges of coercion will be filed. Understood. Claire turned to Cassian, whose face was a mask of anguish and fury. Keep her safe. Whatever happens to me, keep Lily safe. I'm not letting you go. You have to. She reached up, cupping his face with trembling hands. This is the only way to buy time, to keep Drake from forcing a confrontation that ends in bloodshed. Her voice dropped to a whisper only he could hear. I can handle a few questions. I survived 3 years as an Omega Maid. I can survive this, but I can't survive losing her. Please. She saw the moment he understood, the terrible calculation he had to make. Protect Claire or protect Lily. Drake had engineered a situation where he couldn't do both. If they hurt you, Cassian whispered back, his voice raw. If they do anything to harm you, I will burn the Continental Council to ash. Every last member. I know. She kissed him, then brief, desperate, claiming before pulling away. Tell Lily I love her when she wakes. Tell her Mama is being brave, Claire. But she was already walking toward Drake and his foreign guards, her spine straight, her head high. An Omega Maid who'd found strength she never knew she possessed. "Let's get this over with," she said coldly. Drake's smile was victorious, as he gestured for his guards to escort her out. She didn't look back, couldn't look back without breaking. Behind her, she heard Lily starting to wake, heard her daughter's sleepy voice asking for Mama. The sound nearly destroyed her resolve, but she kept walking, out of Cassian's chambers, down corridors filled with shocked palace staff, into a waiting carriage marked with the Continental Council's insignia. The guards flanked her, their expressions neutral but their posture screaming threat. As the carriage pulled away from the palace, Claire finally allowed herself to look back. Cassian stood at the window of his chambers, Lily in his arms, both watching her disappear into the darkness. She memorized that image, father and daughter, golden wolf and silver child, and held it close to her heart like armor. Whatever came next, she would survive it. For them, the Continental Council's evaluation facility was located in neutral territory, a stark building of gray stone that felt more like a prison than an administrative center. Claire was led through cold corridors to a small room containing only a table, 2 chairs, and magical wards that made her skin prickle. "Sit," one of the guards commanded. She sat, hands folded in her lap, and waited. The door opened to admit 3 wolves, 2 women, and a man, all carrying the scent of old power and older politics. The man introduced himself as Counselor Thorne, a silver-haired alpha with calculating eyes. "Claire, is it? No pack name, no family designation, just Claire." "Yes, Counselor. Do you understand why you're here? You believe my mating with Alpha King Cassian was non-consensual due to the power differential and the eclipse's influence." "Correct. Walk us through the events of that night. Leave nothing out." So she did. Every detail she could remember: serving wine at the ceremony, the eclipse beginning, her panic over the broken pitcher, fleeing to the sacred grove, the red moonlight and strange energy in the air. Cassian appearing, clearly struggling with his wolf, their eyes meeting and something fundamental shifting. "Did he approach you first, or did you approach him?" one of the women asked. I'm not entirely sure. I remember turning, and he was there, as if we'd been pulled together by invisible strings. And then, he said my name, asked if I was real, touched my face very gently, as if I might disappear. Claire's voice softened with the memory. He said, "There you are," like he'd been searching for me forever. And I said, "Here I am," because it felt right. True. Then what happened? Claire hesitated. Some moments were too intimate to share, too precious to expose to these cold judges. We bonded. I don't remember every specific detail, the eclipse energy was overwhelming, but I remember feeling safe, wanted. Like for the first time in my life, I mattered to someone. And when you woke up? Alone. Confused. Marked but uncertain if it had been real or eclipse-induced madness. I had fragmented memories and bond marks that shouldn't exist. Thorne leaned forward. "Did Alpha King Cassian ever, at any point, use his alpha command on you? Force you to comply through supernatural compulsion?" "No. Never." "Are you certain? Because an Omega under alpha command might not even realize she'd been compelled." "I'm certain." Claire met his eyes directly. "I've been under alpha command before, from nobles who wanted their rooms cleaned faster, from the head housekeeper assigning duties. I know what compulsion feels like." "Cassian never did that." "What about coercion through circumstance? He's the Alpha King. You're an Omega servant. Even without direct commands, the power imbalance itself could constitute non-consent." And there it was, the trap. Admit that the power imbalance affected her decision, and they'd declare the mating invalid. Deny it, and they'd call her a liar. Claire took a careful breath. "I won't pretend there's no power differential between an Alpha King and an Omega, but power imbalance exists in many relationships. What matters is whether the more powerful party uses that power to coerce or harm. Cassian didn't. He gave me choices. Even during the eclipse, when his wolf was wild and my resistance would have been meaningless, he asked for consent, and I gave it freely." "Freely," the second woman repeated skeptically. "During a celestial event that drove multiple wolves into involuntary shift. During a moment when, by your own admission, you were confused and uncertain. I was confused about many things that night, but I wasn't confused about wanting him, about choosing him." Claire's voice strengthened. You want me to say I was coerced, that I'm a victim who needs saving. But the only people trying to take away my choices right now are you. Cassian gave me agency. You're trying to strip it away. Thorne's expression hardened. Careful, Omega. Insolence won't help your case. Truth won't help my case either, apparently, because you've already decided I'm too weak and powerless to have made my own decisions. Claire stood, surprising them. I'm an Omega. I understand my place in your world. But I'm also a mother who's fought for 3 years to protect her daughter. I'm a mate who bonded with her alpha under circumstances none of us chose but all of us accept. And I'm a wolf who's tired of being treated like I don't know my own mind. Sit down, Thorne commanded, his alpha power pressing down. Claire sat not because he compelled her, but because she chose strategic compliance. But her eyes never left his. I'll ask you one final time, he said. Under oath to the Continental Council, sworn on your life and your daughter's future, was your mating with Alpha King Cassian consensual? The threat was clear. Lie, and they'd know. They'd declare the mating invalid and take Lily. Claire met his gaze steadily. Under oath to the Continental Council, I swear my mating with Cassian was consensual. I chose him. I would choose him again, even knowing the cost. Magic flared around her, the oath binding, testing for falsehood. She felt it probe her memories, her emotions, searching for lies, and finding only truth. The magic settled, confirming her testimony. Thorne's expression soured. He'd been hoping she'd fail, that they'd have grounds to dissolve the mating. Very well, your testimony is recorded. He stood abruptly. But understand this, consensual or not. Your mating has created a situation that threatens all wolfkind. An eclipse blessed child with unprecedented power. A nightborn drawn to our territories. Pack instability. These consequences don't disappear just because you claim you chose your circumstances. I know. Do you? Because from where I sit, you're a liability. And liabilities get eliminated for the greater good. The threat hung in the air, razor sharp and undisguised. Claire forced herself not to react, not to show the fear crawling up her spine. Are we finished, counselor? For now, you'll be returned to Moonstone Pack under council supervision. Your movements will be monitored. And if that child causes any further incidents. Thorne smiled without humor. Well, let's hope she doesn't. The carriage ride back to Moonstone territory felt longer than the journey away. Claire sat in silence, the guards watching her with undisguised contempt, while exhaustion and delayed terror crashed over her in waves. She'd bought them time. Proven the mating was consensual. But Thorne's final threat made it clear this wasn't over. The Continental Council wanted Lily gone, whether through legal channels or more direct methods. They needed a permanent solution. They needed to stop Morgantha before she gave the Council more ammunition. The carriage lurched violently, throwing Claire against the wall. Shouts erupted from outside, guards yelling, wolves snarling. Then came a scream, abruptly cut short. The door ripped open, but instead of guards, a familiar pale face appeared. Morgantha smiled, her dark eyes gleaming with malice. Hello again, little Omega. Miss me? Claire scrambled backward, but there was nowhere to go. The Nightborn climbed into the carriage with predatory grace, and behind her, the sounds of fighting had gone silent. Your guards put up a decent fight. Well, decent for puppies. Morgantha settled across from Claire, casual as if they were having tea. But we're not here for them. We're here because you and I need to have a chat. Mother too. Well, I can't say mother, can I? You're far too young to be my mother. Mother to snack, perhaps? What do you want? The same thing I've always wanted, your delicious daughter, but recent events have made me realize I've been approaching this wrong. Morgantha leaned forward, her beauty both mesmerizing and revolting. You see, I could just take her, fight the Alpha King, kill however many wolves get in my way, but that's exhausting, and it would mean constantly looking over my shoulder. So I'm offering you a deal. A choice. Even I know Omegas love choices. Her smile widened. Give me Lily willingly, and I'll spare everyone else. No more attacks. No more dead guards. Just one little girl in exchange for the safety of your entire pack. Claire's stomach turned. You want me to hand over my daughter to be murdered? Murdered is such an ugly word. I prefer harvested. And think about it rationally, she's one child. Your pack has hundreds of wolves, thousands of lives that will be in danger as long as I'm hunting her. Is one life worth more than thousands? Isn't self-sacrifice noble, heroic even? You're insane. I'm practical, and you're running out of options. Morgantha gestured to the ruined carriage, the dead guards. The Continental Council wants her gone. I want her gone. Even some of your own pack fears her. How long before everyone decides she's more trouble than she's worth? How long before they force Cassian to choose between his daughter and his kingdom? He'd never. He would if you asked him to. If you told him this was the only way to save the pack. You have that power, little Omega, the power to convince him to let go. To accept that some sacrifices are necessary. Claire's hands curled into fists. Why tell me any of this? Why not just attack again? Because attacking him directly nearly got me killed. That child of yours packs quite a punch when motivated. Morgantha's expression darkened with memory. So I'm trying a different approach, psychological warfare. Break the mother, and the daughter becomes vulnerable. Convince you that surrender is inevitable, and maybe you'll do my work for me. It won't work, won't it? You're already exhausted, already terrified, already feeling the weight of all those deaths I might cause. Morgantha stood, preparing to leave. I'll give you 3 days to think about my offer. 3 days to watch your mate try to protect you while his pack fractures. 3 days to count the bodies that pile up because you're being selfish. She paused at the door. Oh, and Claire? That little trip to the Continental Council? I arranged that. Drake is in my pocket, has been for months. Every move you make, every plan you form, I'll know about it. You're not fighting just me. You're fighting the entire system that wants your daughter gone. Then she was gone, vanishing into shadow, leaving Claire alone with corpses and impossible choices. When Moonstone guards finally found her 20 minutes later, Claire was still sitting in the blood-soaked carriage, staring at nothing. Morgantha's words echoing in her mind. Give me Lily willingly, and I'll spare everyone else. One life for thousands. The math was simple. The choice was impossible. And 3 days suddenly felt like no time at all. Chapter 7. The Weight of Crowns. Cassian met the rescue party at the palace gates, Lily clinging to his chest. The moment he saw Claire step down from the blood-soaked carriage, pale, shaking, but alive, something in his chest unclenched enough to breathe again. Claire. Her name came out broken. She stumbled into his arms, and he held both of them, mate and daughter, while his heart tried to restart. Around them, his guards formed a protective circle, weapons drawn, scanning for threats that had already disappeared into shadow. Morgantha, Claire whispered against his chest. She killed all the Continental guards. She wants me to give Lily to her willingly. 3 days. She gave me 3 days to decide. Cassian's arms tightened. Over Claire's head, he met Marcus's eyes and saw his own fury reflected there. The Nightborn wasn't just hunting, she was psychological warfare, breaking them down piece by piece. She also said Drake is working for her, Claire continued, her voice hollow. That she arranged the Continental Council investigation, that she knows everything we're planning. Of course she does. Helena's voice cut through the tension. The older counselor approached, her expression grim. Nightborn are masters of manipulation. They don't just hunt bodies, they hunt minds. Make you doubt, make you afraid, make you turn on each other. Then what do we do? Claire pulled back to look at Cassian, and the desperation in her gray eyes gutted him. How do we fight something that's already inside our defenses? That has people working for her? That can appear and disappear at will? We stop playing defense, Cassian said, decision crystallizing. We go on the offensive. Your Majesty, Marcus objected. We don't even know where she's hiding. Then we make her come to us. On our terms, our territory, with every advantage we can manufacture. Cassian handed Lily to Claire, his alpha authority settling over him like armor. Call an emergency pack meeting. Everyone council, warriors, even the civilians. If Drake is compromised, we expose him publicly. If Morgantha has other spies, we flush them out. That's risky, Helena warned. You'll be revealing how vulnerable we are. We're already vulnerable. At least this way. Everyone knows what we're facing." He turned to his beta. "Marcus, activate the Eclipse Guardian protocols. I want every witch, warrior, and wolf with defensive capabilities assembled within the hour." "And the Continental Council?" Marcus asked. "They'll view a full pack mobilization as aggressive posturing. Let them. They're compromised anyway if Drake is Morgantha's puppet." Cassian's jaw set. "I'm done playing politics while my family is hunted. From now on, we do whatever it takes to end this." Claire touched his arm. "Cassian, what Morgantha said about the choice. One life for thousands. What if she's right? What if the only way to save the pack is—" "No," the word cracked like a whip. "Don't even finish that sentence. We don't negotiate with monsters, and we don't sacrifice children. Ever. But, Claire." He cupped her face, forcing her to meet his eyes. "Morgantha is in your head. That's what she does, makes you think there's no other option, that surrender is inevitable. But there's always another option. Always. What if there isn't? What if keeping Lily means watching everyone we love die? Then we die protecting her. Together. As a family." His voice gentled. "I know you're scared. I know this feels impossible. But giving up Lily won't save anyone. Morgantha will just find another target. Another excuse. Monsters don't stop when you feed them, they get hungrier." Lily, who'd been silent through this exchange, suddenly spoke up. "Mama, the pretty monster is lying." Everyone turned to stare at the 3-year-old. "What do you mean, little moon?" Claire asked. "She doesn't want to harvest me." "Well, she does, but that's not why she's here." Lily's eyes shifted colors, amber to violet, to silver, as power flickered through them. "She wants Papa. She wants to hurt him by making him choose, making him weak." The words hung in the air, carrying a weight of truth that made Cassian's blood run cold. Of course. Morgantha wasn't just hunting an Eclipse-blessed child. She was hunting the most powerful alpha in 5 centuries, trying to break him through the people he loved. "How do you know this?" Helena demanded. "She told me in my dreams. She thinks I'm too little to understand, but I do." Lily looked at Cassian with those ancient, knowing eyes. "She's scared of you, Papa. Scared of what you could become if you had both power and love. So she wants to take the love away, make you angry and sad and alone like her." "Smart child," Helena murmured. "Nightborn live for centuries, but they're eternally alone. They can't form genuine bonds, their nature prevents it. The only thing they understand is domination and consumption." "Then she's already lost," Cassian said quietly. "Because I'll never be alone as long as I have my family. And I'll never be weak enough to sacrifice them for power or safety." He lifted Lily back into his arms, extending his other hand to Claire. "Come on, we have a pack to rally and a monster to outsmart." The grand hall was packed with wolves, hundreds of them, from warriors to Omega servants, all summoned by their alpha's emergency call. The tension was palpable, fear and confusion mixing with the primal need to obey pack hierarchy. Cassian stood on the raised platform, Claire and Lily at his side, Marcus and Helena flanking them. It was a deliberate statement, not just the Alpha King, but the whole leadership united. "Members of Moonstone Pack," Cassian's voice carried through the hall, amplified by alpha power. "I've called you here because we face a threat unlike any in recent memory. A Nightborn named Morgantha has infiltrated our territory, killed our guards, and targeted my daughter. But more than that, she's infiltrated our trust, turned pack members against each other, used our own laws and fears as weapons." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Near the back, Cassian spotted Drake, the counselor's expression carefully neutral. "Some of you have questioned whether Lily should remain in the pack. Whether her Eclipse-blessed gifts make her too dangerous to protect. Whether one child's life is worth the risk to us all." Cassian's golden eyes swept the crowd. "I'm here to tell you that anyone who suggests surrendering a pack member to monsters is not fit to be part of this pack. We protect our own, always. Even when protecting one endangers everyone." Drake's voice rang out, exactly as Cassian had expected. "Your Majesty, with respect, the Continental Council investigation revealed serious concerns. Your Attachment to the Omega and her child clouds your judgment. Does it? Cassian smiled without humor. Tell me, Drake, when did you start working for Morgantha? The hall erupted into chaos. Drake's face went white, then red with fury. That's a baseless accusation. Is it? Because the Nightborn herself told Claire you were in her pocket, that you arranged the Continental Council investigation at her request. Cassian descended from the platform, stalking toward Drake with predatory grace. You've been undermining my authority, spreading dissent, trying to isolate my family. The question is why? What did she promise you? Drake backed away, but loyal wolves closed in, cutting off his escape. I've done nothing wrong. I've only advocated for pack safety. You've advocated for murder, for abandoning our principles in the face of threats. Cassian stopped just short of touching him, letting his alpha aura press down. And now you're going to tell everyone here exactly what Morgantha offered you in exchange for betrayal. I won't. Alpha command. Cassian growled. Truth, Drake. Now. The command was absolute, irresistible. Drake's body went rigid as his wolf forced compliance despite his conscious resistance. Power, he gasped out. She promised me power, said if I helped isolate the child, made the pack turn against you, she'd help me take your position. Said I'd be alpha king of a stronger pack, one not weakened by sentiment. Horrified gasps filled the hall. Even those who'd questioned Lily's presence looked disgusted. Plotting against your alpha was the ultimate betrayal. And the Continental Council? Cassian pressed. I fed them false information, made them think the mating was forced, that the child was unstable. She gave me the arguments, the evidence to plant. Drake's face twisted with the effort of fighting the command, but the words kept coming. She said once you were removed, she'd leave the pack alone. It would be clean, political, no bloodshed, except for my family. They were acceptable losses, for the greater good. The casual dismissal of their lives of his mate and daughter made something snap inside Cassian. His wolf surged forward, demanding blood, demanding justice for the betrayal, but Claire's hand on his arm stopped him. Don't, she said quietly. He's not worth it, and killing him makes you the monster they fear. She was right. Cassian knew she was right, but the urge to tear Drake apart for threatening them was overwhelming. Marcus, he said through gritted teeth. Take him to the cells. Charge him with treason and conspiracy. The council will determine his final punishment. As guards dragged the struggling Drake away, Cassian turned back to the assembled pack. Let this be a lesson. Morgantha doesn't just attack with claws and magic. She attacks with lies and fear. She finds the weak points in our unity and exploits them. So if she's to be defeated, we must be unbreakable. We must trust each other, protect each other, and refuse to let fear make us cruel. Pretty speech. A voice echoed through the hall, not from any wolf present, but from everywhere and nowhere. Morgantha's laughter filled the space like poison gas. But we both know fear has already taken root. I can smell it. Taste it. Your pack is terrified, Alpha King. And terror makes people do terrible things. Shadows coalesced at the back of the hall, forming into Morgantha's elegant figure. Wolves scrambled away from her, some shifting involuntarily, others frozen in primal terror. You shouldn't be able to enter here, Helena gasped. The wards are meaningless when I have an invitation. Morgantha's dark eyes found Drake being led away. My dear Drake let me in weeks ago. Blood keyed the barriers to allow my passage. You've been living with a Nightborn's presence all this time, never knowing I could walk your halls at will. Cassian moved immediately, placing himself between Morgantha and his family. You made a mistake coming here. You're surrounded by hundreds of wolves. Even a Nightborn can't fight those odds. Can't I? She smiled, and suddenly the shadows writhed with movement. Dozens of forms emerged, twisted, corrupted wolves with empty eyes and rotting flesh. Did you think Drake was my only tool? I've been collecting wolves for weeks now. The missing patrols you couldn't find? The servants who disappeared? They're mine now. My beautiful army of the dead. Horror rippled through the pack. These weren't just enemies, they were former packmates. Animated corpses controlled by Nightborn magic. This ends now. Cassian snarled. Marcus, evacuate the non-combatants. Warriors, formation, Delta. Helena, activate the combat wards. But Morgantha was already moving, shadow stepping across the hall in an instant. She appeared directly in front of Claire and Lily, her hand shooting out faster than thought, and stopped. Lily had raised one small hand, and where Morgantha's claws should have closed around her throat, they simply couldn't. Power radiated from the child, like a physical barrier. Silver light that burned the Nightborn's flesh. "You can't touch me," Lily said, her voice carrying harmonics that didn't belong to a 3-year-old. "The moon protects her children. And I am her favorite," Morgantha shrieked, her beautiful face warping into something monstrous as she recoiled from the light. Around the hall, her corrupted wolves collapsed, the animating magic disrupted by Lily's power. But the effort was costing her. Cassian could see it in the way Lily's small body trembled, in the blood beginning to drip from her nose. "Stop," Claire begged. "Lily, you're hurting yourself. Have to protect us, Mama. Have to keep everyone safe." Lily's eyes were pure white now, no iris or pupil visible. "The moon showed me how. Showed me the sacrifice needed to trap monsters." "No!" Both Cassian and Claire shouted together, understanding dawning too late. Lily was preparing to do what the ancient eclipse-blessed witches had done, trap Morgantha in a mirror prison, even if it killed her in the process. "You can't," Claire sobbed. "Please, baby, you're too young. Age doesn't matter for moonlight." Lily smiled, and it was heartbreaking in its serenity. "I love you, Mama. Love you, Papa. But this is what I was born for, to protect you from the darkness." "Like hell it is," Cassian growled. He grabbed Lily, pulling her against his chest, and felt the power flowing through her, wild, uncontrolled, burning itself out in a desperate bid to save them all. Helena had said it required a conduit, someone to channel the power without destroying the child. He'd known from the moment she explained it what he'd have to do. "Lily," he said gently, "I need you to give the power to me. Let Papa be strong for you. But it will hurt you. I can take it, I promise. But you have to let go. Let me carry this burden." Her white eyes found his, searching. Then, slowly, she nodded. The power transfer was agony. Cassian felt Lily's eclipse-blessed magic pour into him, felt it clash with his alpha nature, felt his body trying to tear itself apart from the incompatible energies. But he gritted his teeth and held on, refusing to break, refusing to fail his daughter. Through the pain, he heard Helena chanting ancient words of binding and trapping, felt Marcus adding his own power to the spell, then other wolves joining in, the entire pack lending strength to their alpha. And through it all, Morgantha screamed. The mirror formed around her, not glass, but crystallized moonlight that reflected her true form back at her endlessly. A prison of her own monstrous nature, trapping her in recursive horror. "No," she shrieked. "This isn't possible. The child doesn't have the strength." "But I do," Cassian said through bloody teeth. "And so does my pack. You wanted to break us? You just made us stronger." The mirror solidified, sealing shut with a sound like breaking stars. Morgantha's screams faded to silence, and the corrupted wolves crumbled to ash. Then Cassian collapsed. The borrowed power finally too much for his body to contain. The last thing he heard before darkness claimed him was Claire's voice, desperate and terrified, calling his name. Chapter 8. The Price of Love. Cassian woke to pain and silver light. His entire body felt like it had been torn apart and reassembled, wrong bones, grinding, muscles screaming, his wolf howling in confused agony deep within his consciousness. Every breath was fire, every heartbeat a hammer strike against his ribs. But he was alive. "Don't move." Claire's voice, rough from crying. Her hand found his, squeezing gently. "Dr. Henrik says, your body is still processing the eclipse magic. Moving too quickly could cause permanent damage." He forced his eyes open. The room swam into focus slowly, his private chambers, late afternoon sun streaming through crystal windows. Claire sat beside his bed, exhausted and beautiful, her gray eyes red-rimmed but fierce with relief. "Lily?" The words scraped out of his raw throat. "Safe. Sleeping in the next room with Helena watching over her." Claire's other hand stroked his hair with infinite gentleness. You did it, Cassian. You trapped Morgantha. Saved everyone. Did I? He tried to sit up, immediately regretting it as agony lanced through his spine. Or did I just delay the inevitable? Nightborn mirrors aren't permanent, the record said so. The record said mirrors created by dying witches weren't permanent. But you're not dying, and you're definitely not a witch. Helena's voice came from the doorway. She entered carrying ancient books, her expression cautiously optimistic. I've been researching since you collapsed 3 days ago. 3 days? Cassian's eyes widened. I've been unconscious for 3 days? You channeled enough power to kill a dozen normal alphas. 3 days is actually impressive. Helena set down her books. But here's the interesting part. Because you're bonded to Lily through blood and pack ties, and because Claire is your mate, the three of you created something unprecedented. Not just a mirror prison, but a generational seal. Meaning? Claire asked. Meaning as long as your bloodline exists, Morgantha stays trapped. She's bound not just by magic, but by the living connection between you, your mate, and your child. It's unbreakable unless all three of you die. The implications settled over them like snow. So we made ourselves her eternal targets, Cassian said flatly. You made yourselves her eternal jailers. There's a difference. Helena smiled grimly. Besides, I doubt she'll be causing trouble anytime soon. Being trapped with infinite reflections of your own monstrosity tends to break even ancient minds eventually. What about the pack? Cassian forced himself into a sitting position despite the pain. Drake's betrayal, the Continental Council, the wolves who wanted Lily gone, are handling things surprisingly well, actually. Marcus entered behind Helena, looking exhausted but satisfied. Drake is awaiting trial. The Continental Council has been informed that their investigation was based on falsified evidence provided by a Nightborn-controlled traitor. They're backing off rapidly to avoid the political scandal. And as for the pack, he grinned. Your Majesty, you should have seen it. After you collapsed, every wolf in that hall offered their strength to help you heal. Omega servants, juvenile pups, even the counselors who'd questioned Lily's worth. They all understood in that moment what you'd sacrificed for them. Heroic gestures have a way of changing minds, Helena added dryly. Though I suspect Claire's speech didn't hurt either. Cassian looked at his mate. What speech? Claire blushed. It was nothing. When you collapsed and they were trying to get you to Dr. Henrik, some wolves were saying maybe it was better this way, that your sacrifice proved the child was too dangerous. So I told them exactly what I thought of wolves who'd let their alpha die alone rather than help him. She called them cowards. Marcus supplied cheerfully. Said any wolf too frightened to help save the alpha who'd just saved them deserved to be exiled as rogues. It was magnificent. Made 3 seasoned warriors cry. I was emotional, Claire protested weakly. You were perfect. Cassian pulled her closer despite his protesting muscles. My fierce mate, defending me while I was unconscious. Someone had to. You're terrible at self-preservation. But she was smiling, tears tracking down her cheeks. Don't ever do that again. Don't ever risk yourself like that. Can't promise that. Not when it comes to protecting you and Lily. Then I can't promise not to yell at you about it. He kissed her forehead. Fair enough. A small voice interrupted them. Papa's awake? Lily appeared in the doorway, silver hair wild from sleep, carrying a stuffed wolf that Cassian didn't recognize. She looked uncertain, afraid so unlike her usual confidence. Come here, little moon, he said gently. She ran to him, climbing carefully onto the bed to curl against his side. I'm sorry. It's my fault you're hurt. If I wasn't special, if the pretty monster hadn't wanted me. Stop. He tilted her chin up, making her meet his eyes. None of this is your fault. You didn't ask to be eclipse blessed. You didn't invite Morgantha to hunt you. And you certainly didn't make me choose to protect you. I did that because I'm your father. And fathers protect their children. Always. Even when it hurts? Especially when it hurts. Because that's what love is, Lily. It's choosing someone's safety over your own comfort. It's standing between them and darkness even when you're afraid. It's being willing to sacrifice everything because they matter more than anything. Lily was quiet for a moment, processing this with that eerie wisdom she sometimes displayed. The moon showed me things while you were sleeping. Showed me that you and Mama aren't just my parents. You're my pack. My family. And family means forever. That's right. So, when I grow up, I'm going to be strong enough to protect you too. So you don't have to hurt anymore. Cassian's throat tightened with emotion. You're already strong, little moon. Stronger than you know. But I want to be strong like you. Brave like Mama. So nobody can hurt us ever again. Then we'll teach you, Claire promised, stroking their daughter's hair. We'll teach you to control your gifts, to defend yourself, to be everything you're meant to be, together. Claire, Helena cleared her throat. Speaking of teaching, Your Majesty, the Eclipse Guardian program is ready to begin. We've assembled a team of witches, warriors, and scholars dedicated to understanding and training Eclipse-blessed wolves. Lily will be the first student, but hopefully not the last. Good. The more we understand about her gifts, the better we can protect her and anyone else born with similar abilities. Cassian looked between his mate and daughter, his heart full despite the pain. What about succession? The council's concerns about Lily being heir? Gone, Marcus said firmly. After watching a 3-year-old help trap a Nightborn, even the most traditional counselors admit she's got Alpha King potential. Besides, Claire's regent-designate status is now unquestioned. Turns out terrifying warriors into tears is very effective leadership, Claire groaned. I'm never living that down, am I? Never, Marcus agreed cheerfully. A knock at the door interrupted them. A young servant, one of the Omegas, Claire used to work alongside, peeked in nervously. Your Majesty, Lady Claire? The tailor is here about the coronation gowns? Everyone went still. Cassian raised an eyebrow at Claire. Coronation gowns? She had the grace to look embarrassed. I may have commissioned formal attire for both of us, because we discussed, that is, she's trying to say that you need to publicly acknowledge her as your Luna Queen, Helena supplied. Formal coronation ceremony, binding before witnesses, the whole traditional spectacle. It's the only way to cement her position and eliminate any lingering questions about legitimacy. I was going to ask you properly, Claire said quickly. I wasn't just assuming. Yes. Cassian didn't hesitate. Yes? Yes, I'll publicly acknowledge you. Yes, we'll have the coronation ceremony. Yes, to making our bond official and unbreakable before the entire wolf world. He cupped her face, thumb brushing away a tear. Claire, I wanted to ask you properly 3 years ago, before everything went wrong. Wanted to court you, claim you, give you everything you deserved. So yes, to all of it, whenever you're ready. I'm ready now, she whispered. Your Majesty, you can barely sit up. Dr. Henrik's dry voice came from the doorway. Perhaps wait until you can stand through a ceremony without collapsing. Spoil sport, Cassian muttered, but he was smiling. How about a compromise? Helena suggested. Private hand-fasting ceremony now. Public coronation in 2 weeks when Cassian's recovered. That way you're officially bound immediately, but we still get the political spectacle necessary to impress the Continental Council and neighboring packs. It was perfect. Practical and romantic at once. Tonight, Cassian decided. Private hand-fasting tonight with pack witnesses. I've waited 3 years, I'm not waiting another 2 weeks to make Claire officially mine. Claire laughed, the sound lighter than he'd ever heard it. So impatient. When it comes to you? Always. If Claire and Cassian's journey reminds you that the bonds we forge in darkness shine brightest, consider subscribing. Join others who believe that families built through sacrifice deserve to see their happily ever after, and who want to see exactly how this one unfolds. The hand-fasting ceremony took place that evening in Cassian's private chambers, with only their closest allies present. Marcus, Helena, Dr. Henrik, and Lily. Traditional pack ceremonies required hundreds of witnesses, but this was different. More intimate, more real. Helena officiated, her voice steady as she bound their wrists together with silver cord that glowed with moonlight. Cassian, Alpha King of Moonstone Pack, do you take Claire as your Luna Queen, your mate, your equal, your partner in all things? I do. Before the moon and stars, Before my pack and my daughter, I claim Claire as mine, my mate, my queen, my heart." His golden eyes never left hers. "I promise to protect you, cherish you, and stand beside you through every storm. From this day until my last breath." "Claire," Helena continued, "Omega-born, but Omega no longer, do you take Cassian as your Alpha King? Your mate, your partner, your equal in all things?" "I do." Claire's voice shook but held firm. "Before the moon and stars, before our pack and our daughter, I claim Cassian as mine. My mate, my king, my heart. I promise to support you, challenge you, and stand beside you through every storm, from this day until my last breath." The silver cord flared brighter, sealing the vows with magic that went bone deep. Cassian felt it click into place, the bond that had always existed between them finally, formally acknowledged. Complete. "Then, by the power of the moon and the authority of pack law, I declare you mated and bound. May your love be as eternal as the tides, as fierce as wolves, and as bright as the eclipse that brought you together." Helena untied the cord, but the bond remained, humming between them like a living thing. Cassian pulled Claire in for a kiss that was probably inappropriate given their audience, but he didn't care. She was his. Finally, completely, undeniably his. When they broke apart, Lily was bouncing on her toes with excitement. "Does this mean I get to call Claire Mama and you Papa in front of everyone now? Not just in private?" "Yes, little moon," Cassian confirmed. "From now on, we're a family in every way that matters." "Good." Lily threw her arms around both of them. "Because I like having a family. It's nice." "Nice," Claire repeated with a watery laugh. "That's one word for it." Marcus raised a glass of wine. "To the Alpha King and Luna Queen. May their reign be long, their love unshakable, and their enemies few and far between." "To family," Helena added. "To family," they all echoed. As Cassian held his mate and daughter close, surrounded by loyal pack members who'd become friends, he felt something he hadn't experienced in his entire reign as Alpha King: peace. Oh, there would be challenges ahead. The public coronation would bring political complications. Raising an eclipse-blessed child would have unexpected difficulties. And somewhere, trapped in her mirror prison, Morgantha would be plotting her eventual escape. But for tonight, in this moment, they had won. They had survived the darkness and emerged stronger. Had faced impossible odds and refused to break. Had chosen love over fear, unity over division, and family over everything. It was enough. It was everything. Later that night, after everyone had left, and Lily was asleep in her own room, supervised by guards who would die before letting anyone near her, Cassian and Claire lay together in his massive bed. "Do you regret it?" Claire asked quietly. "All of this? The complications, the attacks, the near-death experience?" "Not for a second." He pulled her closer, breathing in her scent wildflowers and strength. "Do you? I regret the 3 years we lost. The time you didn't know Lily. The fear and hiding." She traced patterns on his chest. "But the rest?" "No. Because it led here. To us being together, officially and completely. No more hiding. No more shame. No more being invisible." She propped herself up to look at him, moonlight catching in her gray eyes. "You know what the strangest part of all this is?" "What?" "I spent my entire life being told I was worthless, that Omegas don't matter, that we're disposable and forgettable. And now I'm Luna Queen, mate to the most powerful Alpha in 5 centuries, mother to an eclipse-blessed miracle." She shook her head in wonder. "How did this become my life?" "You were never worthless, Claire. You were just surrounded by people too blind to see your worth." He tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. "But I saw it. Even before I consciously remembered you, my wolf knew. You were always meant to be here. Always meant to be mine. Destiny? Or just incredibly good fortune on my part?" She laughed, and the sound filled him with joy. This was what he'd been missing all those years, not just a mate, but a partner. Someone who challenged him, grounded him, made him better than he was alone. "I love you," he said, the words feeling both monumental and simple. "I don't think I've said it plainly." But I do. I love you, Claire. Tears spilled down her cheeks. I love you too. Have loved you since that impossible night 3 years ago. Even when I was too afraid to admit it, they kissed again, slower this time, deeper, a claiming and a promise and a beginning all wrapped together. When they finally pulled apart, Claire smiled against his lips. So, Luna Queen, that comes with responsibilities, right? Terrifying ones. Council meetings, pack politics, formal dinners with insufferable nobles. Sounds horrible. It is. But you'll have me to suffer through it with you. Then I suppose I can manage. She settled back against his chest, fitting perfectly in the space beneath his arm. As long as we're together. Always, he promised. From this day until my last breath. And as they drifted toward sleep, wrapped in each other and the peace they'd fought so hard to earn, Cassian knew with absolute certainty that he'd make that same promise every day for the rest of his life. Because some bonds were worth any price, some loves were worth any sacrifice, and some families impossible, unprecedented, and absolutely perfect were worth fighting the entire world to protect. Chapter 9. Silver Crowns and Moonlit Thrones. 2 weeks passed in a blur of preparation, healing, and careful political maneuvering. Cassian's body slowly recovered from the eclipse magic, his alpha healing accelerated by the bond he now shared openly with Claire. The mirror prison holding Morgantha remained stable, monitored constantly by Helena and her team of witches. And the pack, once fractured by fear and doubt, had unified in a way Cassian had never seen before. Adversity, it seemed, had forged them into something stronger. The morning of the coronation dawned clear and bright, as if the moon herself approved. Claire woke in Cassian's arms, their arms now, she reminded herself, no longer needing to hide or feel ashamed, and allowed herself a moment of pure contentment before the chaos of the day began. Nervous? Cassian's voice rumbled against her back, his arm tightening around her waist. Terrified, she admitted. I'm about to stand in front of thousands of wolves and claim a title I have no training for. What if I mess up the vows? What if I trip walking to the platform? What if you're exactly as perfect as you've always been? He kissed her shoulder. Claire, you've faced down a Nightborn, survived Continental Council interrogation, and terrified warriors into tears with a single speech. A coronation ceremony should be easy by comparison. Those were life-or-death situations. This is performance. Everyone watching, judging, waiting for the Omega Maid to prove she doesn't belong. Then prove them wrong, not because you have to, but because you can. He turned her to face him, golden eyes serious. You've already earned your place 10 times over. Today isn't about proving anything, it's about claiming what's rightfully yours. A knock at the door interrupted them. Mama? Papa? Can I come in? Come in, little moon, Cassian called. Lily burst through the door, already dressed in her ceremonial gown, silver silk that matched her hair, with embroidered moons along the hem. She looked like a little goddess, all ethereal beauty and barely contained excitement. Helena says we need to start getting ready now, or we'll be late. And the tailor brought Mama's crown. And it's so pretty, and there are already people gathering in the ceremonial grounds. And, she bounced on her toes, can I help Mama get ready? Please? Claire laughed, her nervousness momentarily forgotten in the face of her daughter's enthusiasm. Of course you can. Let's go see this crown that has you so excited. The Luna Queen's crown was a masterpiece of craftsmanship, silver filigree shaped like moonlight, frozen in metal, set with opals that caught the light and threw rainbow prisms. It was delicate yet strong, beautiful yet powerful. Everything Claire hoped to be. It's perfect, she breathed, watching it sparkle on its velvet cushion. Just like the woman who'll wear it, Helena said from the doorway. The older counselor had transformed from skeptic to fierce ally over the past weeks, and Claire was grateful for her steady presence. Now, let's get you dressed. We have a pack to impress. The coronation gown was deep midnight blue, nearly black, with silver embroidery that formed constellations across the bodice and skirt. It was modest enough to be appropriate for a Luna Queen but beautiful enough to take Claire's breath away. She'd never worn anything so fine, never imagined she'd be allowed to. As Helena and Lily helped her dress, pinning her hair in an elaborate style that was both regal and romantic, Claire caught her reflection in the mirror and barely recognized herself. The Omega Maid was gone. In her place stood someone confident, beautiful, powerful. "You look like a queen," Lily declared with absolute certainty. "I feel like an imposter," Claire admitted. "Imposter syndrome is common among those who achieve greatness," Helena said dryly, adjusting Claire's sleeve. "The key is to fake confidence until it becomes real. Trust me, I've been doing it for 40 years. Despite her nerves, Claire smiled. "That's oddly reassuring. I'm occasionally wise in my old age. Don't tell anyone, it would ruin my reputation." Helena stepped back, surveying her work. "Perfect. You'll make every she-wolf in attendance sick with envy and every alpha wish they'd found you first." "Good," Lily said fiercely. "Because Papa found her, and she's ours, and nobody else can have her." The possessiveness was very wolf-like, very alpha. Claire wondered sometimes if Lily's eclipse blessing had given her more alpha traits than Omega, despite her bloodline. Time would tell. A knock at the door announced Marcus. "Ladies, it's time. The ceremony begins in 15 minutes. Claire's stomach flipped. 15 minutes. That's no time at all. "You'll be magnificent," Helena assured her. "And if you forget the vows, just repeat after the elder. Nobody will know." "Very reassuring," Claire muttered, but she allowed herself to be led from the chambers, Lily holding one hand and Helena the other. The ceremonial grounds had been transformed into something magical. Thousands of wolves filled the space, not just from Moonstone Pack, but from neighboring territories, allied packs, even representatives from the Continental Council, looking appropriately chastened after the Drake debacle. White silk banners bearing the pack symbol fluttered in the breeze. Flowers formed elaborate patterns on the ground. White roses for purity, silver lilies for the moon, deep blue forget-me-nots for eternal love. At the center stood a raised platform where Cassian waited, already wearing his ceremonial armor and crown. He looked every inch, the Alpha King, powerful, commanding, absolutely devastating in his formal regalia, but when his eyes found Claire approaching through the crowd, his expression softened into something achingly tender. The crowd parted for her, and Claire walked the long aisle with her head high, spine straight, refusing to let her nervousness show. Lily walked beside her, carrying a cushion with Claire's crown, playing her role as daughter and princess with adorable seriousness. When they reached the platform, Cassian descended the steps to meet them at ground level, a deliberate choice that sent whispers through the crowd. Traditionally, the Luna approached the elevated Alpha as a supplicant. By meeting her as an equal, Cassian was making a statement. "You're beautiful," he murmured, taking her hand. "You're biased," she whispered back. "Absolutely. It's one of my best qualities." They ascended the platform together, and the pack elder, a wizened wolf who'd presided over ceremonies for 60 years, stepped forward to begin. "We gather under the light of the moon to witness the coronation of Luna Queen Claire, mate to Alpha King Cassian, mother to Princess Lily of Moonstone Pack." The elder's voice carried across the grounds with surprising strength. "This ceremony binds not just two wolves, but affirms the bonds of pack, family, and destiny that brought them together." The elder turned to Claire. "Claire, Omega born, but Omega no longer, do you accept the responsibilities of Luna Queen? To lead alongside your Alpha, to protect the weak, to guide the lost, and to serve your pack with wisdom and strength?" This was it. The moment where she claimed her new life completely. "I do." Her voice rang clear, surprising even herself with its confidence. "I accept the responsibilities of Luna Queen. I will lead with wisdom, protect with strength, and serve my pack with everything I am. From this day forward, I am Omega no more. I am Luna, and I claim my place with pride." Approving murmurs rippled through the crowd. Even some of the wolves who'd questioned her worth looked impressed by her declaration. Cassian stepped forward, lifting her crown from the cushion Lily held. "Then by the authority vested in me as Alpha King, and in the presence of our pack and allies, I crown you Luna, Queen of Moonstone Pack. May your reign be long, your wisdom legendary, and your love eternal." He placed the crown on her head, and Claire felt the weight of it, not just physical, but symbolic. She was claiming power, responsibility, a future she'd never dared imagine. The crowd erupted into cheers and howls, the sound rising into the sky like a physical force. But the ceremony wasn't finished. The elder raised his hands for silence. There is one more element to this coronation. A tradition observed when the Luna is also mother to the heir, the triad bond. Claire glanced at Cassian, who nodded encouragingly. They'd discussed this, but actually doing it was different. Lily stepped forward, and the three of them formed a triangle. Cassian, Claire, and Lily with hands joined in the center. The triad bond, the elder explained for those unfamiliar with the ancient ritual, links Alpha, Luna, and Air in unbreakable connection. It amplifies their individual strengths, allows them to sense each other across any distance, and ensures that their power flows together rather than competing. It is rarely performed, as it requires perfect trust and absolute love between all three participants. "We're ready," Cassian said quietly. The elder began to chant in the old language, words that predated modern pack structure. Magic rose around them, not the wild, uncontrolled power of the eclipse, but something gentler, warmer, like coming home after a long journey. Claire felt the bond snap into place first with Cassian, the mating bond they already shared deepening, expanding, becoming something more profound. Then with Lily, her daughter's bright, silver-tinged presence settling into her heart like a second heartbeat. Through the bond, she felt Cassian's fierce love and protective determination, felt Lily's joy and sense of belonging, felt their strength flowing into her, even as her own strength flowed back to them. They weren't just a family anymore. They were one entity in three bodies, unified in a way that transcended normal pack bonds. When the magic settled, all three of them were crying. "The triad is complete," the elder announced. Alpha, Luna, and Air bound by blood, magic, and love that cannot be broken. The crowd went absolutely wild, their howls of celebration echoing across the territory and beyond. This wasn't just a coronation, it was a declaration. The Moonstone Pack had an unbreakable leadership, a blessed heir, and a Luna Queen who'd risen from nothing to claim everything. Cassian pulled Claire in for a kiss that was probably far too passionate for a public ceremony, but the crowd loved it anyway, their cheers growing even louder. When they finally broke apart, he rested his forehead against hers. "Luna Queen Claire. It has a nice ring to it. Better than Omega Maid," she agreed breathlessly. "Infinitely better." Lily tugged on both their hands. "Can we have cake now?" Helena said there would be cake. Laughter rippled through the nearby crowd. Apparently her words had carried further than intended. "Yes, little moon," Cassian said, scooping her up. "There will be cake. And dancing. And celebration that lasts until dawn." "And tomorrow?" Claire asked. "What happens tomorrow when the celebration ends and reality returns?" "Tomorrow, we start the hard work of actually ruling together. Training Lily. Rebuilding pack unity. Navigating politics and handling the 1,000 small crises that come with leadership." He smiled. "But we'll do it together, all three of us, as a family." "I like the sound of that." "So do I." The celebration did indeed last until dawn. Claire danced with Cassian under the stars, accepted well wishes from wolves who'd once looked through her as if she didn't exist, and watched Lily charm everyone with her precarious combination of princess dignity and 3-year-old enthusiasm. At one point, she found herself alone with Helena on a balcony overlooking the festivities. "Congratulations, Luna Queen," the older woman said. "You've accomplished something remarkable, not just claiming power, but transforming how this pack views Omega worth. I just refuse to accept their limitations." "Exactly. And in doing so, you've given hope to every Omega in this pack and beyond. They see you standing beside the Alpha King as an equal, and they realize their own potential isn't defined by circumstances of birth." Helena smiled. "That's real power, Claire. The kind that changes the world. I just wanted to protect my daughter, and in protecting her, you've protected countless others who will now dare to reach higher, demand more, refuse to be invisible." Helena raised her glass. "To Luna Queens who remake the world by refusing to accept the one they were given." Claire clinked her glass against Helena's, feeling the weight of those words settle into her bones. She hadn't just changed her own life, she'd changed what was possible for others. That responsibility was terrifying and exhilarating in equal measure. Near midnight, Marcus found her with urgent news. Your Majesty, we've received word from the Continental Council. They want to formally apologize for the investigation and offer reparations for the distress caused. Reparations? Political backing, trade agreements, and a formal recognition of Lily as legitimate heir to the Moonstone throne. They're trying to get ahead of the scandal before other packs start questioning their judgment. Claire smiled coldly. Let them grovel, and make sure whatever agreements we accept include provisions protecting Omega rights across all affiliated packs. If they want forgiveness, they can earn it by making systemic changes. Marcus's grin was fierce with approval. Yes, Luna Queen. I'll draft the terms immediately. As he walked away, Claire marveled at how quickly she'd adapted to giving orders, making demands, wielding power. The Omega Maid who'd been invisible a month ago now commanded continents. Cassian found her there, reading her mood with the ease of their new bond. Second thoughts? About us? Never. About everything that comes with being Luna Queen? She laughed shakily. Daily. Maybe. Hourly. Good. That means you're taking it seriously. He wrapped his arms around her from behind, and she leaned back into his strength. But Claire, you don't have to be perfect. You just have to be you. That's already more than enough. Even when I make mistakes? Especially then. Because that's when you'll learn, adapt, and become even stronger. They stood together in comfortable silence, watching their daughter dance with other young wolves below, her silver hair catching moonlight like a beacon. She's going to be extraordinary, Claire said softly. She already is. She takes after her mother. Flatterer. Truth-teller. He kissed her temple. Have I mentioned today that I love you? Only a dozen times. But I wouldn't mind hearing it again. I love you, Claire. My mate, my Luna, my heart. Today, tomorrow, and every day after until the stars burn out. That's a long time. Not nearly long enough. She turned in his arms, reaching up to cup his face. I love you too. My Alpha King, my impossible miracle, my everything. Thank you for seeing me when I was invisible, for choosing me when I was unworthy, for loving me when I didn't know how to love myself. You were never unworthy, never invisible, never unloved. His voice was fierce with conviction. You were just waiting for someone worthy of you to finally show up. Lucky for me, I got there first. Their kiss was soft, sweet, a promise renewed with every heartbeat. Around them, the celebration continued, music and laughter, and the joy of a pack that had survived darkness and emerged stronger. This was their happily ever after. Not perfect, not without challenges, but real and earned and absolutely theirs. 3 months later, Claire stood in the council chambers leading her first official meeting as Luna Queen. Beside her, Cassian handled the military reports while she addressed social welfare concerns. They moved as one unit, their triad bond allowing them to anticipate each other's thoughts and share the leadership burden seamlessly. Lily attended too, sitting in a smaller throne beside theirs, learning pack governance through observation. She was growing fast, too fast, the eclipse blessing apparently accelerating her development. Already she showed the tactical mind of someone twice her age, and the power control of a trained warrior. But she was still, fundamentally, their little moon. Still giggled at silly jokes and demanded bedtime stories and climbed into bed with them after bad dreams. The meeting concluded with announcements of new programs, education initiatives for Omega children, revised pack laws protecting the vulnerable, and the expansion of the Eclipse Guardian program to accept students from allied packs. As the counselors filed out, Helena approached with news. Your Majesty, the mirror prison remains stable. Morgantha shows no signs of escape attempts. In fact, she hesitated, the witches monitoring her report that she seems to be changing. Changing how? Cassian demanded. Her appearance is deteriorating not from damage, but from facing her true self reflected infinitely. The witches theorize that even Nightborn can't withstand seeing their own monstrosity endlessly repeated. She may be developing something resembling a conscience. That's unexpected, Claire said, and potentially dangerous. Conscience in something that predatory could make her more unpredictable. Helena's expression was grim. But it's also possible she'll simply fade away into madness. Time will tell. Keep monitoring her, and increase security protocols I don't trust, convenient redemption arcs from creatures who've lived by consumption for centuries. Already done. Your Majesty. After Helena left, Cassian turned to Claire. You're getting good at this. The instant security assessments, the strategic thinking. I had a good teacher. You're a natural. He pulled her close, breathing in her scent wildflowers and power now, strength that matched his own. Have I mentioned how attractive I find your competence? Not in the last hour. I was beginning to worry. He laughed, the sound warm and rich. My apologies, Luna Queen. Let me rectify that immediately. Gross, Lily's voice interrupted them. You two are always kissing. It's weird. You'll understand when you're older, Claire said, fighting a smile. I'm already older. I'm 3.5 now. Practically grown. Practically, Cassian agreed, his eyes dancing with amusement, but not quite grown enough to escape the dreaded bedtime. Lily groaned dramatically but accepted his hand, allowing herself to be led toward the royal chambers. Claire followed, her heart full of simple, perfect contentment. This was their life now. Council meetings and bedtime routines, political negotiations and story time. The weight of crowns and the warmth of family. It wasn't always easy. There were still wolves who questioned her authority, still political challenges that kept them awake at night, still the constant vigilance required to protect Lily from those who'd exploit her gifts. But they faced it together. Alpha King and Luna Queen, united by impossible bonds and unshakable love. That night, after Lily was asleep and the palace had settled into quiet darkness, Claire stood on their private balcony looking up at the full moon. Cassian joined her, wrapping his arms around her from behind in their favorite position. Do you ever wonder, she asked quietly, what would have happened if we hadn't met during the eclipse, if we'd never bonded? Every day. And every day I'm grateful we did, even with all the complications, especially because of the complications. They forced me to become more than just a powerful alpha. They made me a father, a true mate, a better leader. He kissed her shoulder. You and Lily didn't complicate my life, Claire. You completed it. She turned to face him, moonlight catching in her crowned hair. I love you. I don't say it enough, but I do. More than I have words to express. I know. He touched his forehead to hers. I feel it every moment through our bond. Your love, your strength, your unwavering belief in us. It's what keeps me grounded when power threatens to consume me. Then we're even. Because your love is what makes me brave when fear threatens to overwhelm me. They stood together under the full moon, Luna Queen and Alpha King, remembering the impossible night that had brought them together, and celebrating the impossible life they'd built from chaos and dreams. And far below, in a mirror prison that reflected infinity, a nightborn who'd lived by consumption for 3 centuries, stared at her endless, monstrous reflections, and felt something she'd never experienced before: regret. But that was a story for another time. Tonight belonged to families forged in starlight and love that refused to be denied. Tonight was perfect. Tonight was theirs. If Claire's journey from invisible Omega to Luna Queen touched your heart, if Cassian's unwavering protection reminded you that real love fights for what matters, and if Lily's courage showed you that destiny isn't determined by how we're born, but by who we choose to become, then subscribe. Join this community that believes every story of impossible love and hard-won family deserves to be celebrated. Because stories like these don't just entertain, they remind us what we're capable of when we refuse to accept the limitations others place on us. Epilogue. 1 year later, the first anniversary of Claire's coronation dawned bright and clear. Lily, now 4.5, but with the development and maturity of a 7-year-old thanks to her eclipse blessing, raced through the palace halls with the ease of someone who'd grown up knowing she belonged. Mama, Papa, they're here. The new Eclipse Guardian students are here. Claire looked up from the reports she'd been reviewing, sharing an amused glance with Cassian. Their daughter's enthusiasm for her role as head student never diminished. They walked together to the training grounds, where 5 young wolves waited children from various packs, all showing signs of eclipse blessing, frightened, unsure, but hopeful that the Moonstone Pack could teach them to control their gifts without fear. Lily approached them with confidence, introducing herself and immediately putting them at ease. Claire watched her daughter with pride, seeing how naturally she led, how instinctively she protected those weaker than herself. "She's going to be an exceptional alpha someday," Marcus observed from beside them. "She already is," Cassian said quietly. "She just needs time to grow into her full potential." Speaking of potential, Helena joined them. "The Continental Council has requested permission to model their new Omega protection laws after our reforms. Apparently, 12 other packs have already adopted similar policies, and the movement is spreading." "Let them," Claire decided. "Revolution should be contagious." As the new students settled in and training began, Claire felt Cassian's hand find hers, their bond humming with contentment and shared purpose. A year ago, she'd been invisible, worthless, barely surviving each day. Now she was Luna Queen, mother to an extraordinary daughter, mate to the most powerful alpha in 5 centuries, an architect of social change that was transforming the wolf world. The fairy tale ending she'd never dared imagine had become her everyday reality. And the best part? This wasn't an ending at all. It was just the beginning.